So am I still waiting? Waiting a long time. Waiting for tonight. Oh. Waiting.
That's a terrible way.
Right now, right? That's what you say. We get it by now.
Happy anniversary, Way.
Hey, thanks, man.
It is our 8th anniversary show.
8. Wow. Jesus.
That's a magical number, Way.
That's like a third grader.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there used to be that show, 8 is enough, but
Yeah.
8 will not be enough for our show, I hope.
I hope not either. Jeez.
Well, Way, we have our anniversary setup.
Mm-hmm.
We did this the last few years. Last year, we reviewed Heroes of Wrestling.
Yeah.
Which was a technical nightmare for you.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a dismal show to sit through and comment on. So this year, we made the decision. We're going to upgrade our studio significantly.
Oh, boy.
We're going to put in tons of resources. We're going to raise funds to up the quality.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to review a top-end show so that we and our attention is held for the entire duration of this very long show.
I don't know how much of an upgrade this all is. I mean, if people can actually see what's holding this whole thing together, they'd be very unimpressed.
I see lights, I see camera, and we're about to see some action. So I think we've got all the essentials.
Well, let's hope that this shit even records, because I know this show is actually a little long. People don't know what we'll be recording, and of course we sent out a request asking you for what you guys want us to watch and do a live commentary on, and
in true review-away fashion, we chose a show that no one suggested.
Yeah.
You picked this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people had probably some good suggestions, but like there were either shows that I really had no interest to rewatch, nor like shows that maybe like they might have had one good match or one interesting match even, but not worth sitting a whole show through. And for a review like this, I have to consider what other people are willing to sit through too, because hopefully you will join us and sync up whatever show we're about to watch as you watch along with us. But you know, in thinking that way, I thought, what is an actual show that people would be willing to sit through? You know, what would people actually enjoy sitting through along with us? And we perhaps chose the greatest show of all time.
Hog Wild?
Nope.
No.
People can already tell it's on the bottom of the screen.
I know,
here.
they already know.
Yeah.
It is WrestleMania X7, the year that the WWF gave the middle finger to Roman numerals and went to Houston, Texas at the Reliant Astrodome.
Yeah.
And I am all set with my Tim Hortons XL X7 size coffee for this enormous show, which I don't even know if it fit into one podcast upload. I hope I didn't have to break this up into two.
I hope not. We'll make it really low quality, I guess. I can't believe we even have that limitation in 2017 that we can't upload a file bigger than 150 megs onto the Fight Network website.
Way, if there's one rule I've learned, never underestimate the power of our website.
Oh boy.
Lots of things you learn every week. Go check out the archives.
Before we get into it, any type of setup you want to do leading up to before we start the show?
WrestleMania 17, Rock versus Steve Austin. WCW just went out of business. The final Nitro was the Monday prior. And anything that I'm forgetting, I've got 4 hours to think of coming up. Yeah. I can't believe we're about to do this.
You didn't do any research prior to this, did you?
Zero.
Good.
I wanted to go into this one completely cold and transform myself back to 17-year-old John Pollock on April Fool's Day of 2001.
A Limp Bizkit listening John Pollock, no doubt.
Hey, that was my way back in 2001. I think every wrestling fan was in love with that song in April of 2001.
Well, I mean, even if you weren't, I think you got into the videos that they cut because those are some of the best promos that they ever cut.
And let's get into the video.
Let's get into it because I'm sure we'll watch it right now.
We need to get started.
Please follow along with us, along with the time code you'll see on the bottom. We are watching the WWE Network version of WrestleMania 17, and we're going to start off with the TV14 signature, but once that starts, you'll see the time code flash and you will match along. We'll try to count along with you for those of you listening to us rather than watching us on our YouTube channel. So let's just figure it out.
And we'll say goodbye to all of our listeners 13 years of age or under. This one's too extreme for you.
Oh, my. Alrighty, here we go.
Exciting.
There we go. 3
That number
hours.
is frightening.
3 hours and 45 minutes, and we are on second 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So just sync along with us. Do your best.
Well, look, the monks are watching WrestleMania. I don't think you could get pay-per-view on a television set like that.
Have you gone to the bathroom at all recently?
I did right before.
I
but
did, so
I will definitely need to take a break during this, so one of us will cover. This really screams David Sahadi, doesn't it?
Because of its grandiose nature, yeah.
This always drove me nuts because there's no way these people are watching WrestleMania outside of a shopping center or on a portable TV that does not have pay-per-view capabilities.
In other countries, though, WrestleMania, like, wrestling isn't necessarily on pay-per-view.
The barber shop, come on.
Sure, why not? Maybe they were watching a tape.
It's totally lost
Freddie Blassie.
that Freddie Blassie is doing the voiceover on this. And a young Michael Cole. A Frosted Tips Michael Cole.
By the way, I'm like crossing my fingers that our network feed like doesn't cut off with the Wi-Fi in this office, because like if that
it's
happens,
pretty good in here. This is my office, and the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is usually pretty good, though I do rely on the hard wiring. In.
What is this sponsored by? Snickers?
Hey, props to the fact that they do have My Way. Can you imagine this show watching it with like the production music instead of My Way on this? I'd hate it.
Oh, I couldn't.
Snickers Cruncher. WrestleMania. Oh, there's the WWF logo, despite Vince McMahon's undefeated lawsuit record. I remember seeing this scene, and I thought this was incredible.
This set is like one of my favorite sets. I remember going to WrestleMania 18 the year after following this, and being kind of disappointed at the set when I walked into the building.
It looked like a monstrosity. It was just like bars and metal.
It looked unfinished, whereas like this set was
it
just
looked like a construction site almost.
This one, like, I thought was awesome. It was just this like big golden wall, and man, everything just looked awesome.
And you have to remember, this was also the first stadium event for WrestleMania since '92. This was the peak of the second boom period. Like, just this visual to me of picturing this many people at a WWF event in 2001 was as much an intrigue to me.
Definitely.
Going into this weekend and seeing that many people there for a WWF show, which they had been confined to arenas. Like, WrestleMania had become a very stale, not stale, but a very uniform look. It looked like Raw.
It felt like any other house show or even a Raw, yeah.
But go watch WrestleMania 2000, and you can't even decipher it from a typical Raw, which is where it took place the next night.
This was, of course, at a time when Paul Heyman stepped in for Jerry Lawler. How much time? Like maybe a week or two before?
He was here for a month. It was the beginning of March that Heyman took over, and that was the killer for the ECW talent that thought Paul was still working to find that last minute TV deal. When they saw that, I think even the most naive ECW performers realized it's dead.
But how crazy for like Heyman to come in and like, was this his first pay-per-view, I assume, coming into the WWE?
Yes.
For his first show to call being WrestleMania 17, you know, it was kind of, and he did a great job. I love this team together. Chris Jericho. You remember the kickoff matches for this? It was like Right to Censor, I think. And
no, Right to Censor's on the show. I can't even remember.
Oh.
I don't think I watched Sunday Night Heat. I remember this day because
I think it was Tazz. Like Tazz was in something.
He's in this. He's in the next match. It's
Really?
a 6-man with the APA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't even remember if there were dark matches or Sunday Night Heat matches before this.
Like, I love watching WrestleMania entrances. Typically when I watch Raw or SmackDown, I'll fast forward through entrances, but like for WrestleMania, I'll always watch them because you know what's going through the head of the performers as they're walking down. As they're walking down the ramp is like either a combination of just like bewilderment and just nervousness or just like complete focus, you know? You know it's a big moment just for them to come down.
Yeah, this is only Jericho's second Mania.
But the first one in an arena this big.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you could imagine a lot of the talent on this particular roster not being used to the size of this crowd the first time they're walking down.
This is probably the biggest crowd Jericho's ever worked in front of, like Mexico, Japan, Europe, like anywhere.
Up until this point.
Up until this point, yeah.
You remember the purpose of this feud, or the crux of this feud?
Pissing in a guy's tea, of course. I loved William Regal at this time. And he had only come back in the fall of 2000. That was after the Benoit match at the Brian Pillman Memorial Show, which was an awesome match. And, I mean, one of the real success stories of the WWF, the guy who went to rehab, and geez, been with the company ever since. 17 years now.
I mean, success stories with some blunders in between, right?
Yeah, definitely there were blunders in between, but maintained his job the entire time. We're going to watch a lot of stupid stuff on this show as well.
Key, Mr. Regal.
Oh, this was great. This was on the Go Home show.
When Jericho dressed up as Doink, yes.
Which was actually a great tie-in because we're going to get Doink later on in this show.
That's right.
God, we're going to see a lot of title matches on this show, aren't we?
I mean, it's nothing compared to what you'll see at next year's Mania, I'm sure.
No, that's true.
Although this was with the hardcore and the...
Did you watch this show the night it happened?
I don't think so.
Of course.
Yeah, I probably watched it.
Peak period of the boom period. Why was that?
No, I just like pay-per-view wasn't never really that much of a thing. Like streaming wasn't really popular, and none of my friends really ordered it. So I'd probably
watch the TV at the time?
Yes, I did.
See, I find that amazing that you'd watch the TV that's all building towards this thing, but it wasn't enough to move you to watch the climax.
Yeah, it just wasn't really a thing that like my friends and I did, you know, like we'd probably always watch after the fact, somehow. But I think we were all just too cheap to spend like $60, you know.
I remember this day because I worked during the day until Jesus, cleared Regal and nearly killed himself. I worked the entire day, and I had this
at Cineplex
at Silver City,
yeah,
in North York, Ontario, and I had this fear in the back of my mind because the year prior, me and my brother had ordered WrestleMania, and it totally screwed up. It was like we had just had to convert our box to this digital box, and then we go to order it the night of the show, and it was screwing up, and we missed like the first like half hour of the show, and I was just pissed. So I was thinking in my head, like, is it all these orders coming in that it's going to screw up again with such a high volume of people ordering?
Yeah.
And it turned out fine. And I realized that, what a silly thing to imagine such a high amount of people buying a pay-per-view would screw up the feed. That couldn't happen with technology in 2001.
Especially...
Wait till 2017.
Oh, it'll be flawless. Yeah. I mean, for all the kind of like...
And this was like a $35 event, as I recall.
For all like the kind of silly like peeing in people's
look at his chest already.
Tea. Like this is actually a very technical matchup, you know, and I think like it's interesting because like Regal in ring, he's such a serious performer with such a serious kind of British style, but he had to kind of do all that comedic stuff in order to really get noticed, right?
It's also fun to watch some of these guys transferring their style to a stadium. That many guys will talk about how much different you have to work things to appeal to a large stadium like this, and some who could transition and others who did not.
What's the difference?
I mean, just a lot more broad moves. You know, the idea is you're working towards, you know, the people way up out of things, but you're also working on television. So it's like I can see the philosophy of keeping things to your similar routine while others would, you know, like Hulk Hogan. You could see this was a guy that understood working for an enormous stadium crowd and just exaggerating things, big punches.
To the point where it sent, like, especially later on in his career, where it seemed ridiculous on TV. because his actions were so over the top big. You know, his facial expressions were so big.
Which is one of the things going into this show that I wondered how Benoit and Angle would work, because it's you're working very tight, it's very technical, it's not a match really designed for a 65,000 seat venue.
It's been a long time since I've seen any of these matches, so they're all pretty fresh to me.
We reviewed this, I want to say like 2011 maybe.
Sure?
We reviewed this show.
Are you sure? Yeah. I have no recollection.
It was during our early years, where what I like to call our high spot era, where we were just reviewing like crazy shows week after week after week, and we burned through a lot.
I feel like this is not a match that many people talk about when talking about the show. I mean, I guess the build wasn't really all that strong, and I guess compared to so much of what else was on this show, it's not that memorable. But I'm enjoying this. This
is a good opener.
Good, yeah.
I mean, Regal, I thought his run of matches with Edge, they did like 3 or 4 pay-per-views in a row at the end of 2001 into 2002 that were just, I thought, excellent. Really different from everything else, kind of a precursor to where the style was going amongst those guys in the middle to upper card. And that was also the period where Regal's nose was all fucked and he would just bleed from his nose every single match, which was always just the awaiting the blood to come out. Were you a WCW viewer as well by the end?
I mean, this was what, 2001?
Yes.
I mean, this was at the end, so
Look at this.
I was not. Super butterfly suplex? No, by this point I was not. I don't even know if TSN was still carrying it.
It was carrying it up until the end. I remember the Monday before this watching it at O'Grady's where they had the simulcast. It was nuts. That bar was just packed. I was like, wow, this is probably the end of this.
Yeah.
Heyman was such a breath of fresh air as a color commentator.
Yeah.
Lawler had his perks, but man, I really enjoyed Heyman.
Ooh, that was like a single X guard sweep from William Regal.
He's easily a purple belt.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, plenty of grappling experience.
This could work.
It's a Regal stretch. That's his finish.
I know. I'm saying it. I'm meaning jiu-jitsu.
Maybe. I don't know.
Definitely.
I'm not sure.
Torque the knee. You've got like almost a calf slicer.
People often do the Regal stretch now, and I'm sure in homage to William Regal, but like it never gets called on the broadcast.
No. Who used it in the Mae Young Classic, and it wasn't identified as such?
Somebody did.
Man, this crowd is so hot for this. And sometimes it doesn't always come through the sound.
Yeah, at this point I'm just like almost like really looking forward to like what's to come on this show, because I know like this was like on any other show I think this would be like maybe a bit of a highlight, but on this show
they built everything around this turnbuckle spots.
This show is
but they're not doing anything nuts. You know what I mean? Like they're out here, they're having a solid opening match. They're working it as an opening match for a 4-hour show. Selling the shoulder. It was a really good opener. I really like that. You're right. Holds up much better than probably people felt that night.
Yeah, just what it needed to be. Didn't need crazy near falls. Like no false finishes. Just, you know.
Could you imagine doing this for a recent WrestleMania? Can you imagine sitting here for 6 hours talking?
I can't do it. I wouldn't.
I thought this was long. This was
short. I mean, in comparison,
this was the longest WrestleMania.
Well, we say that now. We're
until 2000.
We're a match in, and for people trying to keep up, we are at about 14 minutes and 27 seconds at this point into the WWE Network recording.
Almost halfway through.
Who's in the limo? WCW won.
I wonder if that's registered in Texas. No, WCW lost.
Who's coming in the... Oh. Oh, wow.
Oh, God. This is the Shane McMahon I could never stand.
Yeah. The WCW Shane McMahon. Was this the match? APA, like an intergender?
Jackie was in their corner, as I believe, and it's Tazz and the APA against RTC.
I remember.
Do you think anyone in the crowd can hear this?
Yeah. I'm sure they piped it in. At this point, I think I was like happy for JBL to have like found a gimmick that seemed like his actual self, rather than like whatever else he was doing, you know, doing the actual acolyte stuff that seemed not representative of him at all. So I wonder how close he was to getting let go, you know, right before this gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, it was when they were in the ministry. I mean, they were pretty awful.
Yeah.
As the original idea of the acolytes with the symbols
Like, what were
drawn
they?
and
What were
paint
they?
on their chest.
What is an acolyte?
I don't know the exact definition.
They were Satanists, basically. And
Essentially.
you think of JBL now. Do you see Satanists when you look at the man?
I guess depends who you ask,
I
but
guess so.
let's chat a bit about the RTC.
Yeah. Talk about fucking
This was a
shitty
response
gimmicks.
to the Parents Television Council and one L. Brent Bozell III, who started out on this campaign to go after all these advertisers on WWF programming.
I thought it was a good gimmick for Stevie, but it probably killed everybody else's.
Well, it was
careers.
funny. It was at the time presented as the WWF giving an FU to the PTC,
Yeah.
but in doing that, they were eliminating the pimp character of the Godfather, eliminating the porn star character of Val Venus. Like, they were getting legitimate sponsors pulling out of their programming,
Yeah.
especially on SmackDown, where they had to tone things down in 2000. Even in 99, that pressure was starting. Now, eventually, they ended up with Bozell greatly exaggerating a lot of claims and was kind of proven to be quite the fraud. But that was the impetus of this gimmick of Steven Richards playing L. Brent Bozell III and just throwing these guys with him as a group. And Ivory was also part of this group, who we'll see later on in the show.
I wonder if a guy like Tazz was nervous, you know, at walking up into a stage like this. He had just gone from doing. I remember watching like the Bite This pre-show.
Yes.
On the network, he went from doing commentary there, walking all the way down here to do the match.
Yeah, this was also because with Lawler leaving, it kind of opened the door for him to do a lot more commentary, which ultimately led to a great avenue for Tazz to get out of the ring and primarily just be a broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was doing Sunday Night Heat permanently by this point as well. Big Hoss. Barry Buchanan. B squared. This guy realistically went nowhere. Well, there you go. Analyst on SmackDown. He was the replacement for Lawler. This guy could really move, though. Bull Buchanan. Just had an array of shitty gimmicks along the way. And when you're balding, you should probably just give it up. It's got that, like, Mark Coleman hair. What are your impressions of Val Venus?
Man, Val Venus, I think he's actually kind of underrated in ring. Like, he would do all these moves that are, I think, very much Kenta Kobashi inspired. Like that running the ropes to the knee spot. And Yeah, I mean, I think
Was the Val Venus character a career maker or killer for this
it's
guy?
kind of both. You know, the guy was kind of.
It had such a short shelf life to me. It was so over in 98, but by 99, my God, that thing had the stench of death attached to it, and he could never get away from that character.
Yeah, he was sort of typecast by it because it was so successful. You know, you can.
I think his promos, like just his voice, it was so attached to the pervert character of Val Venus.
But you could argue that, you know, maybe he would have just turned it into another Bull Buchanan had he not had that gimmick.
He kind of did.
Yeah.
Like by... Can you imagine had Edge become Val Venus?
It's tough to imagine. How about this guy, Charles Wright, man?
Oh, this guy owes his entire career to that Godfather character.
For sure, but he still signs autographs as Papa Shango.
Very smart.
Yeah, so this guy has like two kind of good legacy gimmicks.
Maybe he'll join Ric Flair and get a second Hall of Fame ring one day. As Papa Shango.
Maybe.
Or as the Soul Taker.
Yeah, these guys are all, like, these two are definitely, like, kind of lifers, you know, in the WWE, going through a number of gimmicks before settling on whatever that they were.
Oh!
Weren't they both part of Taker's crew?
Yes.
BTK?
I don't know if Bradshaw was actually part of that group. I don't think he was. But, you know, ran in the same circles. So it's kind of a good... I always enjoyed Tazz in tag team matches. I loved that team that they put together with him and Spike Dudley for a while. They were so great as a tag team together. And they went for 2 months and then just stopped.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough because, like, I think anybody who's seen Tazz in ECW still wants to see that main eventer level of Tazz rather than, you know, a guy who's tagging with Spike Dudley. Maybe at this point it was just kind of... You know, he was probably just taking what he could get.
I remember right before Tazz debuted in the WWF, he was on the Law, and they were taking calls, and I called in, and I asked, do you think with fans that have never watched you in ECW that they'll take you seriously with a name like Tazz? And I guess he gave me... I can't remember what the answer was.
They were taking phone calls from guests? For
they did that a lot.
Wow. That's like a disaster.
I don't know if they stopped it after a while, but I remember one with Eddie Guerrero. And a caller called in and just was so racist. And Jeff Merrick was so embarrassed and apologized. And Eddie's just like, it's okay, man. It's okay. I'm a heel. Well, there you go.
I mean, that was a match. You know, it didn't. I don't think it overstayed its welcome. It was just kind of like a match that was.
Hey, man, everyone did fine. It was. This wasn't going to steal the show. It was, you know, Bradshaw. The most impressive thing was the promo before the match.
Yeah.
Got to have a big win in Texas, and while I'm not watching a guy that I see as a future world champion, a guy that you could see maybe having a singles run one day. Possible, although he was getting at the north end of his career, but it went for a lot longer when you think about it.
Yep.
Wrestled another 8 years. This doesn't look like a giant stadium. It's just crazy to watch, even here in 2001, like the difference in the pageantry of WrestleMania. Like just this location shot. Like it looks like we're outside a little arena.
Oh, God. I forgot about this.
The best work of Linda's career.
Oh, man.
Including politics.
Catatonic Linda McMahon in a wheelchair.
I'm sure it means so much to you that at least you had one child that turned out okay. And
Jesus.
Tonight, after Daddy, you like my new jumpsuit? Really pretty. Thank you. And so after Dad finishes kicking Shane's butt, then we need lots of champagne and strawberries for celebration. And if you could crush the ice, but use your hand and crack it with a spoon, the ice is much better that way.
What else would she use? Use your foot?
I'll see you out there.
Oh, this match.
Oh, Jesus.
Did you?
Yeah, you had some more matches that nobody ever talked about when talking about this
This
show.
was a period I couldn't stand Shane or Stephanie. And I grew to enjoy both as performers.
Yes, the WWE Hardcore Championship.
Yeah.
Was this with 24/7 rules? Or had that been finished by this point?
No, I think it was still going on. What About Me, Raven, from WWF The Music Volume 5, featuring the hit single Pie, where The Rock subtly sings about vagina. Thanks, bud. Do you think this was the kind of the ceiling for Raven during this WWF comeback? I mean, this was hardly an inspiring run for Raven, but he came back in September of the prior year after spending a year during his ECW return, which he was kind of a mess during that year.
It was the most he
seemed serious coming back here.
It was the most he probably ended up doing, but I don't think it was the potential.
I always thought Raven could have been a great commentator and transitioned in there. Like, I know he did it as Johnny Polo, but I thought he would have been someone that would have been wise, as this stuff was kind of, hardcore was getting very dated, that Raven could have tried to transition into that role beyond wrestling, but never really did. And here's our future potential mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
Two of the smartest men in the company, I bet.
Kane and Raven?
Kane and Raven.
Raven was another guy I once called into the law to ask a question to.
Wow, I didn't know you did all this.
I'm just remembering these now. He told me, said, we're going to John from Toronto. And Raven responded, oh, John, I was just sitting on one of you.
Wow.
I was like, oh, great. Kane is one of my all-time favorite interviews.
Really?
Because I interviewed him, and the battery died, and he was on his way to the elevator with the publicist. I explained my dilemma. He looked at the publicist and said, well, let's just do it again. And he halted up his next stop to do an interview with me again.
Wow. What a nice guy.
If I was in Tennessee, 100% I would have voted for Kane, just because of that alone. And look in the middle! Mr. Greek himself, Jimmy Corderas.
Oh.
What the hell's that?
It's one of those under construction types of stands. So this is the match, hardcore title between...
Oh, we still have another entrant.
Oh, wait a second, never mind. It's a three-way. Who else from this roster is still wrestling today? Jeff, Matt, Big Show?
Jeff, Matt, Bubba. Well, I'm sure we'll see many more. I'm sure we'll see some in the Gimmick Battle Royal that are still doing dates.
Yeah, I guess so.
This might have been the era, and there were a number of years of it, where the Big Show was just awful. This is where he had fallen so far down, he was sent down to OVW to lose weight, returned around the Royal Rumble this year, didn't look to have lost any weight, and was just shoehorned into this.
Oh, here it goes. Damn. That was not that bad.
Well, he caught him. Great.
Oh, Jesus.
Look at him in that singlet.
Whoa!
Oh.
This was like definitely a different era of like the big man compared to what we're seeing today. You know, with the Bronze and the Brocks and just
Big Show is probably 50 times better than he was in 2001.
Yeah. My colon hurts.
Oh, I thought it was a Carlos Colon sign. Oh, likes his guts. He's talking about the fan. Look at these very polite fans here, who were either scared to death by security moments before this spot, or are just very appreciative of their presence and want to let them be.
I wonder how some of these people look today.
Fans?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, this show is 16 years old, so
it's a long time there. I
some
bet
of
they
these
all
kids are less than 16.
That guy probably still looks like a goof.
That little baby that man was carrying is probably
Can
a
now
grown
drive. Oh, we've lost them. We've lost them. Cut. This doesn't look like a match that was blocked out ahead of time.
woman. No way, this is hardcore.
Oh, great. Realized the gate for this event, it was like $3.5 million, which, to put into perspective, this WrestleMania last year, the one in Texas at AT&T Stadium, was over $17 million. So that tells you right there how much they have scaled WrestleMania to be. Like, I'm sure you could get a ticket to this WrestleMania for $25-30. Probably no problem. Yeah. What would this event be without some headshots? That mean nothing. And for those that spend a lot more than $30, here's your favorite part of the show, where you are watching on a screen.
Dented that wall. All right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We all know what spot is coming up, and I'm awaiting it. Oh, Raven! Where are you going? Is this the APA set?
Oh,
Jesus!
Careful.
I like how he locked the fence.
That's smart. That's good.
Doesn't he know how Kane debuted? he opened it without any problem. The sign did say keep out. The bowels of the building. This could have been Norman Smiley's debut. This match. Oh, Christ. That almost nailed the cameraman.
This feels like a WrestleMania moment.
What do you think about the shooting of this match, Way?
It's fine. It's supposed to be chaotic.
Garden hose.
I fucking hate these matches.
Because with the Godfather's new gimmick, that's the only hose on this show. I hate these.
I'm gonna get a refill. You enjoy the rest of this.
Oh, you're leaving me alone during this match?
Yeah, you'll be fine.
You better not forget about me in here. Oh! Raven just got tossed through, hopefully, work glass. Oh! That was impressive. Work door or not. Nothing like the Big Show yelling incoherently. Oh, yeah, this. What do you think this room was used for? Beyond this spot. This doesn't look like anything. Makeshift trainer's room. The random Go Cat sign. Oh. What do you think the live crowd is doing right now? Other than sitting on their hands. Here we go. Into the golf cart. I'll give you this. There was some creativity put into this hardcore match, which is more than most. Holy Christ. Ha ha ha. Look at Corderis. With the title, no less. Oh, and this is the spot! Oh, God. Everyone thought that Raven's ankle was just going to get run over by Kane, and he just must have pounded the brakes. These can be okay to watch every now and then, but man, I was so burnt out of these. Look at that Pepsi can randomly placed.
Ah.
Oh, wow, that was quick. I was expecting you to be gone for 20 minutes.
Oh,
You missed the Raven spot
did I
where
miss?
he was nearly run over by a golf cart. And there's blood all over Raven. We've seen some Pepsi cans, and now there's some Mountain Dew conveniently placed. And that looks like some Clamato. Oh,
No
what a
Snickers?
waste. I have not seen any Snickers. Although some of these spots has led to some from me. We also had Big Show and Kane go through a wall into a adjacent room. Oh! Let us be safe. They're not in a wrestling ring.
What's the story being told here?
I'm gonna hit you really hard with stuff you cannot anticipate. And maybe run you over. I was having a great conversation with the listeners.
Is that
while
the
you
board with
left.
all the matches?
Yeah, what's the run time on this?
Yeah.
Are we about to wrap it up? It's time to go home. Is that Jericho's jacket?
I think so.
We're back.
Wow, that killed this crowd.
It always killed the crowd. It's like we've just paid money to watch this on a screen, and they were gone for like 10 minutes.
I understand the appeal from like a director's perspective. Oh, it's something that'll break up visually, right? But it's just like they never understood the concept of hardcore and what, the heart that's required and the storytelling that I think hardcore is actually good for.
Not to mention, this just felt watered down compared to the street fight you have later on in the show, which was your match for all that shit with Vince and Shane.
Oh, yes, right.
Like, this was one where, it's the
forgot that
big
was on the
show,
show.
and, pardon the pun, but just get everybody on the card.
Oh my God.
Oh, a wooden panel. And smoke. What's all this smoke?
I feel like that could have looked really cool.
Oh! He hit nothing. Oh, there we go. Where's Jimmy?
Styrofoam.
Jimmy!
What the? You allowed to count on the wall? I guess.
It's hardcore.
Yeah.
Who's the champion at the beginning of this? Raven?
Yes.
Somehow Raven would become champion again. Because I remember the month after this, at Backlash, it was him and Rhino, and it was actually a really good hardcore match.
So they did all that to build up to this big spot at the end. And, I don't know, I couldn't help but feel like it
Remember what they did?
didn't live up to it.
Remember what they did the next year in Toronto, where it was like 1 million title changes, and you had Molly and Hurricane and Maven.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I tried not to.
Oh, God. Yeah,
This is where you left. Raven was okay from this. Kind of a waste of glass when you think about it.
Really?
Yes.
What would you have done with that glass instead?
Not used it in this match. If it was just a transition for Raven to be off camera for a minute before we get into golf carts. What was the message? Yeah, one of his 50 title reigns.
All right, let's move on.
Oh, he's watching the old school WWE Network. Look at Chris.
Hey, guys.
Can I turn this up a little? Will I screw
Yeah.
anything up?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so Wei has never made me tap in jiu-jitsu by that logic. Did you like the yellow Edge and Christian shirt more than the Charlie's Angels one, or vice versa?
I like the Charlie's Angels one.
I like the yellow one better. I loved it because there were no yellow t-shirts since Hulk Hogan that I could recall.
I don't know if I've ever seen you wear a yellow shirt.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, God. Well, that's nice.
Well, little do these fans know what they're applauding. Sit down, Jimmy. It looks like he just bought a ticket to go to WWF New York, and they gave him the courtesy of shooting him. Man, his coachman just disappeared. Gas to Houston, $50. Tickets, $1,000. Australia. Well, no
She's
kidding.
faking it. Fake accent. She's from like Queens or something.
Imagine she was like, kind of a little bit of a slow start to the show.
People don't say rules. Rules was the lit of the 90s.
With a Z.
Yeah.
Oh, business casual rock. Well, his own cubicle.
Half booze, I hear.
Well, he was the heel going into this for the crowd. It's one of the big things about you're going to turn one of these guys and you're going to turn Austin in Texas. Like, you knew the reaction Rock was going to get in Texas. We will spend lots of time on that. Oh, Perry Saturn. He was just fucked at this point, but man, was he unintentionally hilarious. With a Lugs t-shirt. Look at this guy. He screams 2001. Eddie Guerrero Mows My Lawn was the sign that you may have missed.
It's okay, he's a heel.
Yeah. Casual racism, why not?
Yeah.
It's a sign that read, I went to a WCW event.
So is this the Euro title?
European title, way.
The test.
Featuring the Canadian and the Texan. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
You know who had I believe was on Sunday Night Heat before this? Our favorite faction ever. X Factor.
Oh, good call.
They were on
Against
Sunday
who?
Night Heat.
You know?
I'd have to look it up.
Oh, he's so funny.
This would have been... Eddie was at WrestleMania 2000, but didn't work it, as I recall, because he had the injury, didn't he? Or am I wrong?
He was in the four-man, I think, with Jericho and X-Pac and Benoit, right?
It was a three-way. It was Jericho, Benoit, Angle. And Eddie was on the show.
Why don't you just look it up?
I guess I could. Did you love this tune?
I always liked Test's theme.
Did you like Test?
I had no idea what the lyrics were, but I thought it was nice. I listened to an interview with the CFOs with Sam Roberts recently.
Uh-huh.
And I think, they were talking about how wrestling themes have to be a lot more repetitive. They're not full songs with like bridges and choruses and whatnot. They're just like kind of repetitive loops. But I'll say like they were even more repetitive probably in this era where they were really just probably like...
Test.
Yeah.
This is a test.
Like all the way through. And I guess in many cases it worked fine. But it had a nice groove. It was like a good loop.
Oh, my bad. Eddie was in a 6-person intergender match at WrestleMania 2000. Because he had messed up his elbow right when he came in, but was back in time for this. Teaming with Perry, Dean Malenko, and Chyna.
European Championship.
Chyna was on
For
the
those
other
trying
team.
to keep up, we are at 43 minutes and 37 seconds in the WWE Network video. Oh, diving powerbomb right away.
Is everyone ready for the dark match or the Sunday Night Heat result?
What was it?
Just Incredible and X-Pac defeating Steve Blackman and Grandmaster Sexay in 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
I forgot that team.
See, Test, I can't say they really missed the boat on this guy. I think he certainly had limitations, but I always felt for this guy who was the collateral damage in Hunter's ascent in late 99 and got totally just shifted aside in that angle. And it was Vince that got to go for revenge against Hunter, while this schmuck just had to stand to the side and forget about Stephanie.
But I also felt like it was too soon for him. I thought that angle was too big, and that spot was probably too big for his abilities at the time. The guy's, I mean, I don't know if he could have ever promoted even later on in his career, but he certainly couldn't have at that time. Even in ring, I just didn't think he was there.
But that's exactly what he has to do, and Guerrero has so much more experience than Test. He has to throw Test.
I thought one of his best opponents was Edge. Later this year, him and Edge had some fantastic matches during the WCW WWF feud, because Test would join the alliance. Because when you think WCW and ECW, you think of Andrew Martin.
That's a show we should have reviewed.
Which?
Ooh.
The Invasion?
Any of the Invasion.
Oh, I would have just cried for the entire time. Look at those pants of Tests.
I thought they were a good look.
I think I read recently that the Test, like the logo,
Yeah.
I think it was like his family coat of arms, the Martin family. It
Really?
was something like that.
A cross with like a moon attached to it.
Good timing to get his leg caught there. Or he's legitimately stuck. No, he looks actually stuck here. Eddie's got to help him get out.
Yeah, what the fuck?
He was legitimately stuck.
Stomp him?
Nice of Perry to pitch in.
No, but like I think Eddie should have just like went after him.
Come on, this little guy isn't helping him out. Test, he was just like, I'll stay here all day if I have to. God, Perry, why did you sign Scott Steiner when you just had Perry basically as a carbon copy of him at this point? The bleach blonde mustache? Perry was clearly just going for anything that would click. This was pre-Moppy.
When did Eddie take his hiatus after this run?
It was later on this year that he was taken out, just before the summer. And then he was released in November and was back by April of the following year.
Right.
Some of the bodies on this show, very evident of the time period, these two being examples.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys are gone, and I think sometimes we're so numb to it that I didn't even think of that until now.
I mean, that was always the joke with Test, right? That it was just a nickname. Wonder what Perry's payoff for was this. It's the following year, when Kevin Nash was hurt, he still got a solid payoff for standing in the corner of Scott Hall. I wonder if Perry was able to pull the same strings. I'm amazed this European title stayed in circulation for another, year plus after this. What a title that meant nothing real quick. Great start to it with that Owen Bulldog final.
Although, what means more, the European title then, or the Intercontinental title now?
I'd say the Intercontinental title now.
By that, how much?
Minuscule amount.
Yeah.
And that's all because I'm just thinking of The Miz right now. But you're right. Negligible difference. Dude, Test in there with the right guy. I don't want to say underrated, but better than the rap he gets.
They're very athletic people.
Hits all his shit, and he does some ambitious things. Look at that!
That's cool. Yeah, that's great.
That's easy to fuck up. What, the pinata reference? Uh-oh, Perry. Oh, the ref. Ref, turn around.
Nice. The Moss family three-handled Gordonzo.
How can you remember that?
Whatever.
He says he's got it written down. You don't. The name of that move might have been the high point.
The Drifter does that move now.
Why does he call it that? Drift away does not have the same lasting impact.
So this was after TNA had already dissolved and Trish had moved on.
Oh, TNA. I thought you meant the promotion.
No. That was the call.
Yes.
Ooh.
Albert was an X Factor.
Right. That's right.
That's what he was dealing with. See, I always felt this connection. It was more just like it kind of just branded Perry and Eddie as kind of
The leftovers from
the leftovers of the Radicals. Like Benoit was the clear star. Eddie was, had Eddie been able to.
Well, I mean, Dean wasn't doing a whole lot.
Dean was
either.
doing nothing. I mean, Dean's not even on this show.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Oh,
I think his moves look good.
I do too. I think this is a pretty good test match by his standards. Oh, Dean is on the
there
show.
He is.
He heard me. He's like, go fuck yourselves.
What kind of fucking shirt is he wearing?
Oh, an awesome one.
Oh my god.
You have
Blue
boots on
jeans.
too? Cowboy boots?
Oh man. This is
Dude,
WrestleMania.
Dean is fucking styling.
Dean,
minus the jeans.
This is WrestleMania. This was what he chose the morning of WrestleMania
Dude,
to
this
wear.
ref, what a fucking idiot he was made to look like in this match.
Yeah.
Ugh.
A lot of kind of overbooking and it really just kind of felt like a Raw match, honestly.
Dude, Tazz held up his own in this match, though. Okay, this event is over at this point. This show has been good, but this is like a New Japan show.
I don't know if I would say it's been good.
It's been average.
You throw out the pageantry. I mean,
look at this.
What have been the good matches?
Yeah, you're right. You've had some decent matches with some talented guys.
The hardcore match sucked. This was not. I mean, I guess average. The 6-man was just kind of whatever.
When people talk about this show, they never bring up these 4 matches.
It's good that the best is yet to come, But it wasn't. It wasn't offensive.
Like that is the formula for a New Japan show. Is that the undercard is, it's bad at times to just forgettable, and maybe there's a certain art form to structuring these long shows.
Yeah.
Does Mick Foley look younger here or now?
Good question.
Or same?
He's hairier now. I'm sure he's a lot
I won't say he looks younger 17 years ago, 16 years ago.
He's a lot more mobile now, but he doesn't look that much different.
More mobile then.
Sorry, mobile then, yeah. But now as in what?
Look at Austin. This guy who just drew the first $1 million buy show, and look at his waiting area. All right, here we go.
See, I prefer the way they shot their backstage segments then versus now when everything has to be perfectly lit with a colored light.
You like the more kind of grimy.
It's just supposed to be natural. It's hard to.
It's a tribute to the Sportatorium.
So this match was made
the Monday before, which was. I was fine. It's like,
totally,
okay,
me too.
Just throw these guys together. The less story, the better. But my God, I was so excited to see this match.
I think you should always have a match for the hardcores, even with little storyline attached to it. And I think that's what this was. I had no issues with it at all. This was like the dream match for the hardcores.
Like this had Flair Savage expectation level going in on 6 days' notice.
All right, he's talking.
And a representative of all 50 states. It's no secret that I'm not a big fan of the state of Texas. And I saw your little flag, people, and it's missing about 49 other stores. And to be honest, I'm glad I'm having my match here tonight because tonight I can illustrate a point. Chris Benoit, even these 65,000 bull riding, beer-bellied Texas ski-haws know that I have never and will never tap out to you.
I'm waiting for him to say WWE.
Who's the freaking cowboy hat?
WWF.
You're not 7 years old anymore. Please. He's talking to you. Who's the freaking cowboy hat?
Even though he would, of course, go on to wear a cowboy hat famously himself.
Wearing a hat?
Alrighty. Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle. Time code is about 55:32 for those following. When was the last time you saw this match?
Probably the last time we reviewed it.
Yeah.
I will be right back.
Okay.
How much time is it?
We're almost an hour in. Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle. No piss and tease. Just a match between the two most technical wrestlers probably on the roster at the time. Awesome. Awesome. I mean, that whole sequence really, the crowd's applauding like it was like they're cheering both of them, but I mean that was really just Angle dominating, as he should have been. Like, the dude's an Olympic gold medalist versus a guy who he's probably a very good wrestler, but like nowhere near the level of amateur wrestler that Kurt Angle is. And I think that's continuing here too, although with some reversals. But I definitely can appreciate sequences like that a lot more now, you know, after obviously doing a bit of jiu-jitsu, but also having kind of some of the knowledge through MMA. So for 2001, I mean, this style of match, I would say was probably quite unusual for the WWF at the time, and maybe not as appreciated as maybe it could have been. But the story seems to be pretty much mostly Angle, with some reversals from Benoit. All this stuff is awesome. And I wonder how much of it was planned beforehand and how much of it they just decided to just go out there and just improvise. You know? It's definitely not boring, this crowd. Like, I think this crowd is into it. Low single.
They may not feel each other, but they certainly respect each other's submission moves. Angle has to respect the crossface. It made Angle tap for the first time in his life, and Benoit has to respect the ankle lock. I've never seen Benoit tap either, and Angle made him tap for the last time.
That's right. The story being that Kurt tapped for the first time in his career on Raw, and therefore, in this match, he is incredibly afraid of the crippler crossface. I think it's like really smart on a show where you had so much variety. Like, you knew you had a TLC match coming up. You knew you had, I guess, the spectacle of Rock and Austin. You had hardcore matches.
There was
street
a wide
fights.
variety of everything.
But for these two to decide to go out there and do only what these two could do, and that's have like a ground-based amateur wrestling influenced style of match, I thought was really smart.
How do you find the submissions and transitions hold up?
Fucking great. Like, better now than probably back then, because I think the audience has more of a vocabulary for it, you know? Like, I see this match fitting in perfectly amongst a Zack Sabre Jr. match, or something in the Cruiserweight Classic. Like, and this was 2001. So I'm actually quite surprised that the crowd is still into it as much as they are, and maybe that goes to show you how like, all the amateur wrestling stuff, I'm sure they love to do for themselves. Like, I'm sure they both enjoy doing it, but I think it's all the stuff all the playing to the crowd and things like that they still managed to keep, that actually kept this audience interested, even though they might not have been as familiar with a lot of the moves.
And who else did Angle have as an opponent until Benoit that he could do this with?
I remember, like, he named off the names. It'd be like Benoit, it was Eddie, Ray, and aside from that, like, not many people who can go at this level. Like, if Kurt came back and wrestled this style of match, obviously now they're transitioning into the kind of the more high impact stuff, but like, it's like, you know, what Daniel Bryan seems to claim, that when he comes back, he'll wrestle a more mat-based, ground-based style. I could see it being, you know, safe enough and entertaining enough that
I don't think Kurt would have. Kurt would be his own worst enemy, and that he'd want to overdo it.
moonsault and shit.
But
like
he wouldn't need all that stuff to me.
wouldn't.
He wouldn't need to do the moonsaults. He wouldn't have to do all the Germans. I think he could do a perfectly acceptable match. The audience would be hot for it with the right opponent. That Bryan and Angle, I think, could come back and do relatively safe versions. But
that is
those
a dream match.
But those two are. I think they would want to push
see.
things. Like, look at Daniel Bryan, who comes back from the neck injury, and what's the first thing he wants to do? He wants to take a full Nelson suplex from Luke Harper on TV to test out the neck. Like, that's the mentality some of these guys have, and Kurt would probably be 10 times that mentality.
And let's say you even if they could have a match like that with each other, which will never happen. But what are they going to do when they face Brock Lesnar? What are they going to do when they face somebody who's in their moveset includes throwing Germans and throwing things like that? You can't not take other people's moves. So I just don't know if it's possible. At this point in the match, they're telling the story of both of them pretty much being equals, and this is sort of a bit of a stalemate. Both of them are great at what the other person manages, to do. They're both incredibly technical, and they're both pretty even.
This point, too, this was where you could see Kurt just about to... 2000 was a big year for him, but 2001, you could really see this guy should be a main event heel, and...
Yeah, definitely.
And then became a great babyface in the summer, and then I thought they just...
But they did put the title on him prior to this.
They had put the title on him prior, but it was never...
a main event run.
He was doing the comedy run still, whereas by this point... They still had some of the comedy, but they were significantly tightening up his character.
Right.
And then in the fall, he to me was one of the victims of the whole invasion and the flipping back and forth. He was another guy that joined the alliance, then came back, and throughout the fall, it was just he went from being the hometown hero winning the title after 9/11 to being a heel within the span of 2 months.
Prior to Benoit coming into the WWE, I know that there are a lot of concerns about his size, right? But you see him in a match like this, does that ever pop into your mind that this man is too small?
No,
Seems
it didn't.
Seems like he fits. He seems the same size, really.
I always thought the size stuff was so...
overrated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very overstated. To me, it was never a visual hiccup when he would be in there with a larger guy.
Mm-hmm. But granted, let's say Benoit was 30 pounds lighter without the muscle mass. Would we look at him the same way?
Well, how about this? Where would Benoit...
same with Angle, too. Both these guys are, probably a little overinflated.
What do you think would have happened with the Radicals had they stayed with WCW and they were lumped in with all the guys at the end?
It's a good question, because none of these guys were on guaranteed deals, were they? The Radicals?
At this point?
Yeah. No, I meant back in WCW. If they stayed, would they have stayed through their contracts, or would they have been picked up by the WWE?
They were let out of their contracts.
I meant if they had stayed in WCW. That's what you're asking, right?
I'm saying, had they stayed till the end of WCW?
Yeah, I'm just asking if they would have stayed for the duration of their contracts, or if they would have been picked up with the rest.
Okay, I understand what you mean. No, I think that they would have all been lumped in with the ones that had the options to...
In my opinion, I feel like even a guy like a Benoit and Eddie, they had enough hype surrounding them that I would hope that they would have been treated a little differently, with the same respect that they at least treated somebody like a Booker T or a DDP with.
They didn't want Ray. They didn't want Ray at this period. It took him 1.5 years to be convinced to bring Ray in. I would have thought that... I don't know. It's hard to look at where these guys would have been. They came at the right time.
Yes, definitely.
Perry got an incredible deal. All of them got really great deals because they were coming in at such a hot period, and it was a big coup to get all 4 of them, where I think that their bargaining power was somewhat helped by the fact that they were all leaving together, and it was a big... They took out the soul of WCW's work at the time by getting all 4 at once. Mm-hmm. And, Malenko and Saturn were very much helped than had they come on their own, which I don't think they would have been.
Yeah. I wonder if they would have even been picked up. So we just had the visionary tap from Kurt Angle.
Which we established, if the ref doesn't see it, it never happened.
Yeah.
This crowd is super hot for this. This crowd's been awesome the whole show.
Considering the type of match, I'm actually quite surprised that the crowd is still as into it as they are. Because they were definitely taking a risk by having this style of match. And I think the placement on the card is probably a positive, too. As opposed to putting this after the TLC or something like that.
Yeah, and it was, the first big match of the show. And you can see, they went from the submissions and the escapes into the bigger stuff.
One of my favorite moonsaulters. Man, that's just gorgeous. And you wouldn't expect it from the Olympic gold medalist, you know? But he's just like, I mean, I guess it shows you how great control the man has of his balance and his body, you know? Damn. This was so cool because, like, the two of them had become such foils for one another in ring. Like, their movesets kind of had, like, similar, you know, okay, this guy has the headbutt, this guy has the moonsault, this guy has the crossface, this guy has the ankle lock. They both do the Germans. So this was really kind of like a match of, like, two guys that were mirrors of one another. Oh, come on.
We just had that spot in the last match.
And that wasn't even effective. Like, what was the point of that? Oh. I forgot that was the finish.
Still a really good match.
I really like that match, man. Especially the style. I have a much bigger appreciation for it now. I thought the finish was kind of like maybe a little rushed, but you know.
They still got 14 minutes.
Yeah.
And this was also just the start of the feud. I mean, they continued. They did the 30-minute match at Backlash. They continued in May.
Yep.
And then it was when Benoit got hurt. And I mean, if you go back to the spring of 2001, the matches that Benoit did in that time period, take out the angle matches. You had the pair with Austin in Calgary and Edmonton.
The tag team match.
The TLC match on TV that they did where he fucked up his neck.
The Triple H quad injury match.
The cage match these two had on TV, which was absolutely insane with the moonsault and the swan dive.
Yeah.
This was so awesome. This was so great.
Oh, wow. Who played Kimchi? Do you know the person?
At a time, it was Steve Lombardi.
Wasn't it Harvey Whippleman? Well, it wasn't Harvey.
Whippleman was with Kimchi, and it was usually Lombardi doing the role.
You think it was Lombardi here?
I don't think so, because Brawler and Kimchi come out for the Gimmick Battle Royal.
Interesting.
God, Heyman looks the same, but also different.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Wow, look at this. Who's who?
The Brooklyn Brawler, isn't he in this? Or is this it?
No, there's more.
I thought there were many more than this.
There's going to be
Earthquakes in it.
There's going to be more. I think a lot of them are going to be surprises. I'm really surprised they haven't done this again. Maybe at a health risk for some of these people, but like I love this idea, and I thought it was a great way to get nostalgia pop.
There were people that weren't a fan of it, not fans, but people in the company that weren't a fan of it.
Well, it has been a while since I've seen it, so
I thought it was a really, really catchy thing to do.
Honestly, you just want it for the entrances.
That's it.
And that's it.
Some nostalgia on the show. Why not?
It's such a weird thing.
Look at the Undertaker.
Oh,
this is great. This was like this, and they did do Access at the time, but such a scaled down WrestleMania week. Like no Hall of Fame. There was none of that stuff in this period. Thanks, Lita. It was safe to do another Hummer angle.
Yeah.
The driver was Jacqueline. Look at Taker.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Oh, God.
Oh, what's he going to say?
What's he going to say? Oh, that's good. They didn't have him do any... they must have had him do some heel things if, like, Taker just took it off of him.
thank you so much for being here. Your dedication and tireless efforts truly exemplifies the spirit of our Phantom Warriors.
This is nice and all, but is there any chance of maybe having something in the form of a medal I can put on my neck? This event is so many important.
What a dork.
It's funny.
What we do. Respect them, I care a lot about what they do. Colonel, let's bring out your new command post chair. Colonel, divas don't go with the chair. It's gotta make these soldiers feel.
I don't know why I find this shit so funny.
Because this comedy feels like it is falling flat.
They bring a chair with WWF logo on
It's
it.
the chair. That'd be great if they send all the sports teams chairs instead of titles nowadays.
The experience today was
Oh my goodness.
hopefully everybody comes away with this with a great feeling of WWF.
Look at that WWF logo.
Oh wow.
Kurt Angle, what a
Could you imagine like the person who had to blur all that shit out like for all those years?
But after that war,
And now it's all unblurred.
have to respect Chris Benoit for what he did to you.
This
tonight.
backstage set.
What a brutal contest it was.
It's like our set.
What do you mean respect? There were two men in the ring and the better man won. I don't have to respect anyone. I won. I beat him 1, 2, 3 in the ring. There's not a doubt about it. I am the best in the World Wrestling Federation. I proved. Oh, wait a minute. There's Benoit. Got the criminal crossface on the angle. And he's tapping again. He's tapping again.
Imagine if Andre did this to Hogan after the main event of WrestleMania 3. Just keep the angle going.
Huh. So what was the next match they had after this?
The Ultimate Submission match was at Backlash, and it was a 30-minute match.
Look at him.
I was very happy, actually, when I was watching that to know that that angle was
Yeah.
continuing.
Right.
Should have kept count of the My Way drops on this show. Oh, boy. Intermission.
Chyna's last match?
No, this was... She did this match, and then she worked Judgment Day against Lita. And that was the last match.
Okay.
And that was an awful angle with Lita, where Chyna won, so she didn't even drop the title before leaving. Actually, this angle was well done at the Rumble, where Chyna did a...
Was this the peak
Neck injury.
of her mainstream popularity? Or at least...
Yeah, because this
in
was a
WWE.
few months after the Playboy issue came out.
Yeah.
She was doing those spots on Third Rock from the Sun, so she was pretty big at this time.
Yet, unfortunately, like from what we've learned since then, like I guess in her personal life, she wasn't doing all that well.
Well, I don't think she had hit like the problem she would years later. This was also pretty much your view of, because Chyna never wanted to be in the women's division. So this was, I guess, somewhat of a concession by her, just even doing this with Ivory. But this was her placement. I mean, this was after the Eddie stuff. That was an awesome feud, but that had ended. And
it's kind of like a demotion after you've won
and
the
her
IC
appearances
title.
were much more limited.
But yeah. Vince is the true pimp. Somebody...
Did you hear that? Chyna signed a hold harmless agreement. The good old pro wrestling hold harmless agreement.
Okay.
You can be...
So remind me what the angle was? Chyna's neck got broken?
Chyna had injured her neck,
Yeah.
executing a move herself. I mean, they didn't even really put the heat on Ivory.
Sorry, the pile driver?
No. It was... She had been...
She
had
took a
done...
pile driver.
She had taken a pile driver, but
Yeah.
that was after the handspring back elbow spot at the
right,
Rumble, where she was stretchered out.
Gotcha. Oh, with her bazooka.
They gave her
God,
this in the video
that's
game
fucking
too, in like
dangerous.
No Mercy.
Point it out at Ivory. Point it at your opponent.
Yeah. hold this harmless.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, she can't get sued.
I wonder how much that thing weighed. It looks like a solid 20-pound item. Oh. This is gonna be so easy. I'm facing a mere woman.
She looks great here. She had really quite the makeover, I guess, considering from how she originally debuted.
From Glow to WrestleMania, Tina Ferrari.
What is she doing now?
Ivory?
Yeah, do you know?
Not and she pops up every now and then. She's interviewed in the Glow documentary. I don't know exactly what she's doing.
Did she not do a table for 3?
Yes, yeah, she did a table for 3 not all that long ago. I'd rather be in China is another sign.
That was a famous one.
Yep. Well, they also made
Chyna.
Chyna t-shirt, which did not have a very long shelf run.
Was actually in the video games, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Working the vertebrae.
Wait, so you're allowed to use the belt before the bell? Or was this part of the hold harmless thing?
I guess so, yeah. Look at this. China's not even moving. God. Look at this lot of heat.
That DTC thing, I guess was supposed to be kind of like a safer version of a Nazi salute.
Maybe that's what they were going for. Oh! Made sure she had a safe landing. She just doesn't even listen to the ref's count.
Who's this ref? Chad?
Is this Chad Patton? Oh. Yeah, these are hard clotheslines. A China line.
Oh, you see people going up to go to the bathroom for this one?
They're not wrong. They're looking at the card. They're like, wow, we got a lot of seat time still to fill. A lot of big stuff coming up. I mean, it's pretty big the rest of the way in terms of your lineup.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going for a P, can't blame them here. Still hot. The crowd's been into every match.
Definitely.
There hasn't been that.
Definitely.
I mean, at least the angle was over here between
Honestly,
these two. And
even that hardcore match, the moment they came back through
when they
the
came
ramp,
back, yeah.
The crowd was right back into it.
Oh, Chyna lifted her up. She didn't kick out, folks.
Why would the babyface? I mean,
because Chyna wouldn't give anything. She wouldn't give anything here for Ivory.
But fuck.
It's just so limiting for a babyface when they wouldn't give an inch. It's how do you have any sympathy here?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Look at this.
It's not a challenge.
Look at this. Fuck this person. Look, just laying. Count to 100. Whatever. This sucked.
Yeah, that sucked.
And so the Chyna era as champion began. Title she never lost.
What else we got left? TLC, Shane
and Vince,
Triple H, Taker,
Austin and Rock, the Gimmick Battle Royal.
Yeah, right.
And that might be it.
Cool. I'm looking forward to all those. That's really the meat of this show. Heyman was really trying hard to like make all these things seem like they were big deals.
Heyman?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Maven. Say there's nothing wrong with a dominating female unless she's dating me. I think that's what Heyman said. Look at her.
Yeah, this thing. I got it.
Try me, Triple H. Try me. Oh yeah, Vince with his little orange short sleeve.
Oh god.
She's medicated.
What's her title now?
Medicated.
No, I meant
the head of Trump's Small Business Administration. What do you want, twerp?
Just want to get your thoughts on the shocking developments this past week. Your son buying Dudleys. You want shocking? Tonight, you get shocking.
I'm gonna headbutt someone in the skull.
The Charlie Caruso of 2001.
My guest at this time, Vince McMahon.
Oh, I need a refresher here.
Yeah.
This
video package will emphasize how great a performer this guy was.
So how did she become catatonic? Like, how did she become like that?
Vince sent her off to a mental facility, and they drugged her up.
Oh. Ugh.
Look at these two. Oh, God. Look at him. He looks as intimidating as me.
Look at those punches. They might look better back then versus now.
Look at this guy in his turtleneck. Do you want to play?
So obviously this was all before the WCW stuff.
No, it was so... Like, just the timing of it with, like, WCW, like, it was just... It's the go-home show to WrestleMania. It's almost like...
I know.
I guess this was your final broadcast. You had to make the most of it. It just felt like, man, this would have been so much better to end Nitro in, like, the spring when you could really kick things into gear for the summer. Think it out a bit more.
We're about to get the WCW locker room cameo in the press box. What a week in this man's life, you know?
What a week this must have been for Dave Meltzer.
Yeah. To buy out your competition and to have I guess, a giant match at your biggest show that you're putting on ever. Oh, God. It's so funny.
This would have been so much better with Eric Bischoff in this role.
Oh, yeah.
If you had just had Vince announce he's bought WCW and they're waiting to finalize it, which is what Eric Bischoff was actually trying to do that year, and then in the spring you reveal the secret investor that's come in.
It's so tough, though.
I know. We're totally armchairing it. You had all these guaranteed contracts that it make no sense for these guys to give up to come in.
Even Bischoff, I'm sure he was still settling from the shock of it all, right?
But think about if you had just let WCW... You know, you want to go for the instant money. I totally get that. But man, in the next year, everyone came.
Yeah.
And the following year after that, Goldberg came. Like, all of them eventually made it in. And it's just, there was nothing on the WCW end to capitalize on. Vince, we have a problem. Yeah.
So he still came out to Vince's song.
What a dork.
Eh?
Yeah, that's strange. He had his music by this point.
Maybe he didn't.
I guess not. I thought for sure he did.
So, Shane's in-ring career up until this point.
Yeah.
He had the SummerSlam.
He did
match?
WrestleMania in 99 with X-Pac, the test match, SummerSlam. He had done Raw matches. I mean, him wrestling was not a total novelty. Here we go. W. What's up? What's up?
So weird.
Yeah. He's waving the lance right now. Find them. They have no idea. There we go.
There they are.
Hey,
Johnny
it's Johnny Ace. WCW wrestlers, including that little fucker.
Oh, they look so
Blocking out Sean Stacey. They don't want to even be there, it feels like.
Oh, Jindrak, Lance, Buildup. That's all they got. That was the WCW locker room.
So as memory serves, they had originally talked about doing Vince and Foley on this show, and Foley didn't want to violate his retirement, which
he already did the year prior.
Well, he did, and then I guess that was his new serious retirement, but always talked about, man, he ended up coming back anyway, and he gave up a massive payday here to just be the referee.
If it was an option for guys at the time to only do WrestleMania, like Taker eventually ended up doing, do you think somebody like Foley would have taken that?
To just do the 1 year? Foley was so adamant at this time about, like, that's essentially what was, they weren't asking him to come back permanently. He was given the one-off spot here, and he chose not to. But I would think the vast majority all would have. Yeah, right. No one's turning down a Mania spot like that. So, I mean, somewhat kudos to Foley for wanting to make a stipulation stick, but I mean, even he probably realized, look at this money I'm leaving on the table. What's the point?
Eventually, he did come back.
Look at him with the puffed out chest. He looks 40 years younger here.
That look is a classic. Imagine a young Conor McGregor watching this.
Family night.
All right, for those of you following, if you need a timestamp, we're at about 1:32:33 at this point. We're about to watch Shane McMahon take on Vince McMahon in a street fight. What were your expectations going into this one?
To be honest, not all that high. I knew that they would get a lot of leeway to just do whatever they want, but the idea of Vince McMahon doing a match was not appealing, and to me,
especially against Shane McMahon.
Yeah, Shane. You knew, even at this point, you knew he would do his crazy stuff, but it wasn't as though this was a highly anticipated match for me. To me, it was, well, is this really necessary on this show? But the McMahons are the stars of the show, so it's the biggest show of the year. Look at these. Well, we know where Shin got the punches from.
Look at that.
They are hereditary. Like, this is god-awful.
But I'll say, like, I feel like I would have paired these two together rather than to have one of them paired with, let's say, a Kurt Angle or a Chris Benoit, you know?
Yeah, Shane would do that a few months later.
Yeah. Oh, man. You figure, like, watching wrestling and coaching wrestlers your whole life, you'd be able to, like, know how to throw some offense. But I guess
this guy doesn't have an athletic bone in his body.
It's a completely different thing, you know? Be like us trying to throw a work punch.
I mean, Shane always tried hard. I will never take that away. My issue is that...
Yeah, but backyard wrestlers try hard. They try
exactly.
really hard, you know?
And it's like, look at him. Like, at least today, Shane looks the part that he needs to. This guy looked like nothing. Like he didn't even look like an athlete. Had to cover himself all up. It's like, I'm sure guys in the locker room would at least give this guy credit for what he's doing, but it's like, my God, I'd be furious.
I do appreciate this match though, because like you had kind of the straightforward wrestling match. Now you're gonna give me pure sports entertainment, and I think that's what this match was. The buildup was ridiculous. I'm sure they're gonna
the payoff at the end of this match was
a ton of run-ins in this one. So it's another form of professional wrestling.
There's our first blast to the head of Vince.
What is that sign? A keep off sign?
Yeah, you can't step on those little particles.
Oh, I see. That's where he got him.
Look at Jim Ross,
man,
just
Jim Ross working
providing
overtime.
with our exposition.
Man called Steamboat Flair, and then
What would you say was
McMahonfigures.com. We should look that up.
Vince McMahon's best match?
From my recollection,
The one I think of.
the Valentine's Day Massacre with Austin. Thought that was
That one
a
had the
pretty
big
good match.
stunt. The Hogan match was really laid out well in Seattle. That street fight,
Yeah.
the blood.
But that cage match, I remember far exceeding my expectations, with what Vince was able to do. Unless I was thinking of a different cage match. Wow, he was only 31 at this time. We're older than Shane was at this point. Damn.
We've never been in a family street
No,
fight.
how many dives off of a turnbuckle through a table have we done? Could you whip your dad with a kendo stick?
No, I couldn't. Oh, God.
Not even if your dad asked you? Boy. This is a Shane McMahon match. I mean, it's also a Vince McMahon match. This is what the style is.
Yep. Time to dance.
Oh, man.
Vince does.
He's just fun to watch, isn't he?
He is. He's such a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Like, imagine if the man was your boss, and you're watching your boss, like, try to act and do all this.
Those black Levi's that he always worked in. That might have been the best sequence of punches in Shane's entire career right there. Or Carlos and Hugo. Yeah, you guys can call the rest of this marathon show without a table. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wonder how many concussions this guy's had in his career. When you think back to Vince, I think of like unprotected shots to the head a lot.
Kind of, yeah, you do. I mean, he didn't have too many matches.
But when he did, I mean, God, he bled a lot, and it was...
They all had to be this style, right? Oh.
Why couldn't Adam Pearce have done that for Vince on TV last week? Pull him out of the way instead of just hightail it.
I mean, that still works. Like, that's a signature. Still works.
All this stuff was designed for maximum reaction with a pair of limited performers.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that one was a clip that they used a lot in like the "Don't Try This at Home."
This also felt too with like the introduction of WCW Like, think about this. You just shot the WCW angle 6 days ago, and now you're doing the two owners against each other.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just the timing was so awkward.
Really,
like this was the kickoff to it.
But I'll say like WCW even seemed like a real afterthought at this point. That was not the storyline. You know, the storyline is Linda McMahon.
This is almost divorced from WCW. Like they make the mention of the guys there, but it's like there's no.
They were kind of caught off guard, I'm sure, with everything that had happened. Oh my God, this is uncomfortable to watch. Like Linda trying to act is uncomfortable to watch.
I thought she was great here.
Oh man. Oh my goodness.
Oh, this person is a powerful woman in Washington now.
But this, what would you say this angle did for Trish?
Hey, it was like, look where she was a year ago. She was the side piece for TNA, and now she was in a main event angle. Had to do that humiliating angle with Vince.
Yeah, that was the turn.
And that was her big comeuppance, was the turn on Vince right here, that slap. What I think also helped her was the match with Stephanie at the pay-per-view before this that blew away expectations. Like I think everyone thought that would be just awful, and it turned out to be a very good match.
The person who inducted her.
However, after this, Trish was kind of phased down.
Oh my goodness.
That was Stephanie's big WrestleMania bump. Oh boy. Well, Trish was still a novice.
Yeah.
That slap. It's been her signature.
That's her finishing move.
The slap. That's what she'll beat Ronda Rousey with.
Yeah.
And the women have left WrestleMania.
Imagine running in those platform shoes.
Oh, that'd be very... Oh, no!
Uh-oh.
She tripped!
Oh.
It's a long ramp. Imagine they had to do that this year.
Yeah. Crowd's loving this, though.
Hey, they're totally into it. Can't deny that fact. God, this guy is just the best. Oh my God, you bitch. Look at Howard Finkel. You're right, Jim. He did. This guy.
I think he, like Vince, I mean, man, in many ways I feel is kind of underappreciated just for his facial expressions. He's such a cartoon.
I don't feel comfortable going so far as to applaud him as being some kind of method actor. I think this guy was legitimately nuts and perfect for this role as Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
In the head.
Hit him in the head. Oh, shit.
He wasn't trying not to. That's
oh, fuck.
Oh, my God.
Oh. They say the back of the head, it's the absolute worst place to hit a guy.
Hey, that's The Rock's mom.
Oh, you're right. Listen to this. This is the hottest they've been the entire show.
Yep, definitely.
Like, he's the most over character
definitely.
that we've seen. Look at how lifeless Linda is. Dude, this is the best acting of her entire career by leaps and bounds, dude.
Oh, God.
It's Weekend at Bernie's.
Yes. She's
No,
very
you're not a
qualified.
fan?
No, I mean, I'm saying she's very qualified to play a dead
Comatose
body.
Linda.
Yeah. It's just so weird to watch. This family.
This is the guy that would book Eric Bischoff to make out with his wife, to make out with his daughter.
This is fucked up.
You sit right there. Linda. You know it's coming, and it's...
Yeah. You think the grandkids have seen this match yet?
I'm sure this is every Christmas Eve at the McMahon Christmas gathering. God. Oh! Jeez, he almost nailed Heyman.
Yeah.
Jim Ross is so great at how vile he felt Vince McMahon was.
Yeah. I respect Linda for keeping that hairstyle pretty much for the past, 30 years.
She was born with it.
Yeah.
He is a human being. Insane.
Yeah.
Biggest pop on the show.
She's the Undertaker.
No, Vince, I want a divorce.
Wow, listen.
Listen to this.
that.
Can you imagine being in the arena for this? Holy shit. Perfect. Like, you could not have booked this better.
Yeah. Man, this storyline was so ridiculous, and I don't look back at it fondly at all, but, like, you look at this moment, and you can't really complain that they did anything wrong, you know? It all built up to that.
It's worked for this.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look at what happened after this with all the invasion stuff, but man, this feud,
Just
it peaked,
the
it
Linda
built.
thing. Yeah.
Like, who would have anticipated this between these two?
Yeah. Oh, if Linda did the Van Terminator, that would have really...
Had he done this before?
I don't know, actually.
Van Damme only introduced it the summer before this, so
Huh.
I want to say this
Maybe
is the
not.
first time Shane's done it.
Foley should get out of the way.
Oh, yeah, that had to have been the first time he did it, based on how they sold that and set it up.
I wonder how Heyman would have called this.
It's the Van Shaminator.
Yeah, it was way
That
better
was
than it had
tremendously
any right
put
to be.
together match.
Yeah.
Shane's match with AJ Styles to me was way more impressive because you didn't have all the
But that was with AJ Styles.
smoke and mirrors. You're
Yeah, but
right.
that was
You're
AJ
right.
Styles. This is
Look at
Vince
Lance. Just put up a fist. Chavo. They couldn't even probably see it. Wonder if they even got
Yeah.
a monitor up there. And the guy who was probably the most successful of everyone in that skybox was Johnny Ace.
Definitely. He's still on WWE TV.
When you look at WCW and the guys that came in, it was the agents that got, like, Arn Anderson,
Yep.
key agent to this day.
Yep. Dean.
Dean was there.
Kidman.
Kidman has a role.
Jamie Noble. Yeah.
Sean Stasiak. Planet Stasiak did not have such a memorable run. Except for running into shit really fast.
There's just so much going on in this whole scene. So many elements.
To be Vince McMahon at this exact moment,
Yeah.
2 hours before you're going to turn your most over baby face,
True.
and before all the invasion stuff,
That's
like
right.
how much you could redo if you were him in this very second.
Well, if you could pinpoint a peak of, like, a specific moment of the peak of his run,
Of Vince's.
what would you say it was? Because would you say it changed after Austin turned heel?
Oh, definitely.
So at what point would you say on this show was the actual moment where he reached the very top of where he...
Austin's entrance. And they had a great match, but man, that's the do-over. 100%, that's the do-over. We'll talk about it later. They just had it just seemed they did all this stuff that sounded really appealing, but then it was like, okay, well then what? Who's Austin going to work with as a heel? Oh, we'll turn Hunter? No, we're not going to turn Hunter.
Plus, like, I mean, the invasion really confused things too. Like, I'm sure they had a certain plan with Austin, and then Triple H got injured.
It's WWF Access with one
I
X.
know, it screwed it up. So
Look at those
TLC
pants.
next? I gotta take a quick piss. Are you okay?
Yep, you go. We'll do commentary here on Access, featured on Sunday Night Heat. Oh, in an interview.
Session here, but I know that all of our hearts are going to be in our throats as we watch TLC 2. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It's TLC 2, it's TLC. TLC, it's the match we created, us, along with Edge, Christian, the Dudleys. You know, obviously we want to walk out of WrestleMania with a tag team title. You know, that's our goal. But, you know, this almost goes above and beyond the championship steps. I mean, what Edge, Christian, Rhino, gonna lead it, myself, it's so personal. This has been a 2-year culmination.
These poor fans that are getting autographs while Matt's totally ignoring them. Would not be the last TLC match.
Lita last week on Raw, there's so many elements of danger in this match. There's always danger, you know, when it comes to the Hardy Boys.
Look at that autograph. Just like circles. Jeff also getting into the ink here, as you can see on the right arm. Wouldn't be. That was an extreme close-up. Hunter in peak Hunter mode. TLC is up next. I think this is going to be good. So we had done the ladder match the year prior, then the TLC match at SummerSlam, and then we get another TLC match for this Mania, which you have to imagine these guys at this point are near their limit in terms of how to top what they had already done. They're already on the map. These tag teams were so over. I hope you're not hearing all that static that I can hear. Oh, Way's dad is calling. I should answer this, but I'm not going to. You know you're over when you can get that kind of a reaction wearing see-through shirts. In 2001, it was a testament to how over the Hardys were at this point. I'm hearing a bit of static coming out of this. Oh, it's probably from me. Way has returned. I nearly answered this for some conversation, but I decided not to out of respect to you.
Oh, that would have been funny. I almost wish you did. My dad got a new phone.
Oh.
So he's been testing it. All right. Did I miss anything good?
No, the entrances just played, and I
Good,
was worried
good,
about
good.
the audio, so there was a bit of silence.
No, it's separate tracks, so I think we
Okay.
can clean it up after.
TLC 2.
Yeah, I mean,
And the last WrestleMania, Edge and Christian would team up together at.
what would you say was your favorite match on this show?
On this show?
Yeah.
Overall or up until this point?
Overall.
I mean, this was... The TLC matches, I applauded, like, how much they did, but I will take a Benoit angle over that.
Really?
Dude, I thought...
You like that more than this?
They were so different matches. My favorite on this show, honestly, is probably the Austin Rock.
Really? Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But to me, like, this is the match that I'll go back to watch. You know what I mean? And
This was the most spectacular match on
Yeah.
the show.
yeah. And I think my favorite of the TLCs.
Yeah, it was also... I mean, this is not a super long match in comparison to the prior two.
So, I mean, think about what they had to do. You know, they had those amazing ladder matches. They had the first TLC at SummerSlam, and then they had to top it at WrestleMania this year.
What did you think? We can talk about, I mean, the outcome too, because SummerSlam, it was in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
They switched it at the end because the Hardys couldn't win in their hometown, so Edge and Christian won. And then this one, Edge and Christian won again, so they won all three.
I kind of like that. I mean, I'd rather that than just say, you know, all of them exchanging wins. They are the heels, Edge and Christian, and so them always finding a way to sneak out the victory. I mean, I had no issues.
I kind of, more I think about it, I really regret their idea to do another one of these on TV a few months later.
Yeah.
I almost wish this was the last one, and Edge and Christian were they won. They won the feud. They won all three of them, and then they broke up shortly after this.
Now, if they were going to do another one, I would have liked to have seen it promoted, you know, for a bigger show. Let's say a SummerSlam or even a WrestleMania afterwards, and you do it as a main event. Because I feel like...
They announced it the day of for a SmackDown
I
episode.
know. And like, because after this especially, I think that brand... I mean, they're still living off of it to this day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, making a pay-per-view out of it. So it really probably should have been kept a lot more special. And after the third one was really good, but by the fourth one with like Kane and like Hurricane Helms, it just...
Oh, that was another one on top. Like they did the fourth... yeah, you're right. The fourth was the one with Kane and winning it solo.
Or RVD, sorry. Isn't it? I think. But I mean, like, the creativity of these guys was just... The ladders were obviously like a big thing, but it took like the minds, you know, and the chemistry between all six of these people to make this type of match work.
Well, yeah, that to me was... When you have the likes of Edge, Matt Hardy, Bubba, I mean, you've got a lot of creativity mixed in amongst these six.
But you contrast this with the hardcore match that we saw previous, where it was just like hitting people over the head with random shit. Nothing. I could say, like, there's probably a story being told here, but I just kind of watched this for the stunts. But at least the stunts were by themselves were like very creative and nicely set up and kind of provided really great visuals that were very memorable.
And this being a match too that, I mean, this transfers very well to such a big spectacle like this inside of a stadium.
Yeah.
You know, the big jumps off the ladders, the
Definitely.
spear spot later.
This was also, of course, at a time when they each kind of had a third member for all their teams.
Right. Yeah, they had introduced Edge and Christian had Rhino, the Dudleys had Spike, and then the Hardys had Lita, who would all make their way into this match. At this time, who did you think had the most upside if they broke up various teams? Was Edge at the top of your list? I mean, Christian had gained a lot of momentum, I think.
You mean as a single star?
Yeah, as a single star.
I probably would have gone with Edge.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think that's who most figured had the biggest breakout potential.
Because, like, the Hardys obviously are great, and maybe Jeff ended up being the biggest star of all of them, but you didn't necessarily see either of them as a single star yet at the time. And I think the Dudleys themselves too are so great together, but neither individually as sort of a main eventer single star, you know, not necessarily with their looks. Do you think match placement, this was a good spot for this after the Shane Vince?
I guess. I mean, you could have. I guess, you know, you had your. You could argue that you could have maybe put the women after one of these matches instead of putting both back to back, but I don't think either match suffered going back to back. I mean, they were different matches.
Yeah.
They were, you know.
I'm assuming the Gimmick Battle Royal was after this, which is.
Yeah, it had to be because we got 3 matches to go here.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. That was on the back of his head. Look at this. Yeah. You knew what was coming when they were setting this up?
Oh,
it's still crazy, though.
This spot they did, the SummerSlam one where Bubba goes through these was just, that's the visual I always remember.
It's still just an incredible level of risk that's involved. If anything were to fuck up, if something slipped.
Like that?
Yeah. Oh, oops. Don't worry about it. Bubba setting it up for himself, at least. But, like, did he take this, or was it 2 people that... It's 2 people
at SummerSlam or at this one?
This one.
It might have been Matt and Bubba at SummerSlam. I remember Bubba predominantly. Christian, I thought, at this time period, he was really starting to break out for me as a guy that could be more than just a tag partner. But, man, his gear sucked here.
You're not a fan of the mesh shirt?
No, not at all.
He needed something to separate himself, I guess.
Of all the people you've heard that, you know, you should cut your hair, Christian's was one I agreed with.
Completely.
I thought it helped him to
looked way better with the
get his hair cut.
Hair.
It's also a time period where it's like everyone had long hair.
Long blonde hair.
Yeah.
You ever considered it? Growing out your hair?
Oh, I did, and then during this era, everyone had long hair, so I cut mine. Oh, it's down to my.
Are you fucking?
No, I'm totally joking.
I need to know,
dude. Can you picture me with long hair?
I
dude, I let this grow for 5 days, and I get like in a bad mood because of how it looks. I feel like I look. Oh God, Christian, what the fuck was he thinking doing that? He did that all the time in these matches. He would not land on the rope. He'd clean go down to the floor, and it was like, dude, that really impresses everyone backstage. But man, the audience reacts the exact same way if you land on that top rope. Maybe even more because you're getting crotched. Oh God, how is he alive from that?
I really appreciate like the layout of this match with regards to how kind of visual everything was. Just kind of
they let stuff breathe too, like stuff like that, and then there's a slowdown period.
All 6 men fighting on top of the ladder. They do that spot a lot, but it probably was a bit more. I mean, this was one of the first kind of 6 men ladder matches, so it looked all the more impressive. Oh, he's fine.
Crazy.
I wonder, like, I mean, I know that they have time to go through the matches, to plan out these matches, but, like, I'm assuming they don't actually do the actual stunt until the day of. Right?
Oh, yeah, they're not
falling through tables just to test it, right? So, I mean, they're leaving a lot up to kind of chance. Oh.
Spike was a guy that I thought would be in a wheelchair by now. Sure. When I was watching this guy in ECW and then here, just a guy that just murdered himself.
But that was awesome. Like, that was just a great cameo. It took maybe like 10 seconds, if that, but
look at this.
Look
how close he was to that ladder.
Just a giant ball of energy and comes in and just takes out 2 of the other members. And here's Rhino. Yeah, this is all the cameos.
Rhino was booked so solid during this month period, and then unfortunately suffered he was one of the many that needed neck surgery, and that he never recovered in terms of his character.
Heyman got this move over so much.
Yeah.
And I thought both of those two were used greatly, but the best cameo was definitely Lita coming up right here.
If Rhino was like 5 inches taller, this guy might have been a world champion at some point.
Oh, Rhino's still on the roster.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
I thought this was just like...
She is not a runner.
But this whole thing was just like done so well, written so well, paced so well.
Look at this pairing.
All right. Jerked them off the ladder.
Well, not exactly.
Oh, man. Yeah, this shit...
Watch this. Watch how it contorts. Ugh.
I know. She
Look at this
her
place.
neck
This
that
place is
way.
going nuts. Oh, Rhino's no Dark Angel. Oh! See, Edge knows how to do that.
Sometimes run-ins, especially for a match like this when you already have 6 people, could really fuck up the match, but I thought all 3 of those
They were short and they were limited and
used perfectly. Just came in, did their spots, and then... Oh, man, it was great.
Imagine that scene from like 2 years earlier when they were only in ECW. Oh!
God damn.
God damn. Yeah. It's just so hot inside this arena.
Oh.
What a bizarre character to explain. She does
attacks
acrobatics and strips.
Well, the Dudleys thing was to take the shirt off, right? Or sorry, the Hardys.
The Hardys. The Dudleys should have tried that.
Yeah.
At least on house shows. Those see-through shirts.
But I mean, like, fuck, like, this match was just like spot after spot and everything was just elevated.
It's why, like, at the time, I could appreciate the hell out of this, but it wasn't my cup of tea. It was just... I just looked at, man, it's like, how do you top this? Because none of the guys coming up look and say, well, we're never going to try and top that. They all think it's like, how can we do more?
You can argue that they'd never top this. Like, you can argue, like, no multi-man ladder match or any ladder match period has ever really topped this one. But I appreciate that it existed, and I appreciate that it existed on this show.
Like, look at this.
Crowd. Yeah.
Ugh.
Crazy. You're right. Like, this match didn't feel that long. I could feel the finish already coming up here. And exactly how long was it? Like 15?
I think it's 14, 15.
Man, they packed a lot into that.
Like SummerSlam, I want to say it was well over 20. And the one at WrestleMania the year prior was even longer than that. I think they each got shorter. 15:47.
And that wasn't even Jeff's last spot in this.
That's right. He's still got, well, the spot they tried to talk him out of and he was stubborn and wanted to do. If you had told me on this show, Jeff Hardy will be wrestling in 2017, I would have laughed in your face. I was like, dude, this...
Is he even booked this week? Or No Mercy? Or sorry, what's the show coming up?
No Mercy. Did they add him on Raw to a match?
Yeah, never mind.
They're in a feud. They'll probably end up on the show.
So Jeff is supposed to run through these ladders to what? Jump on with the two of them?
I don't know if it was a poetry in motion he was going for.
Poetry in motion?
Well, no, I mean he runs off the ladder and then takes him out.
He would have just fallen himself?
Well, what else was he going to do?
I don't fucking know. I have no clue. Oh, okay. So
he was going to go and grab the titles.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right, because Christian fell. I forgot how the spot went.
This is nuts. This is fucking stupid. But everything they're doing is...
And Jeff was so pissed about
everything
this.
they're doing is pretty stupid, so...
Yeah.
At least he didn't get hurt.
It's like, it's not even that big a fuck up. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's realistic.
I mean, there's a certain context to the match that it's like, if you do sell that it's a screw-up, you're hurting the match because this is chaotic. Like, this shouldn't look clean and rehearsed.
It's true. But John, like everything they've done has been incredibly ambitious, and they're landing it clean, except for that. So that
look at this, he got right back up. He was all set.
I know. But
What he's thinking as he's falling is they've got to do this spear spot.
Yeah.
How the fuck do I get back up there?
Yes.
And this is the lasting visual that everyone remembers.
So that's
Which is nuts. His legs get caught near there. Oh, nuts. Crazy.
God.
This is rivaling the Linda Pop.
That one was incredible. Yeah, every time I see that, it's like...
I can't imagine this match being called without Paul Heyman. Like, he was so perfect for this with, like, the run-ins and...
Yeah. I mean, Lawler called the SummerSlam one.
I know, it's just... I listened to this match, and it's like, he was just... it was just such a great call.
Mm-hmm.
No, more Rhino. Rhino is made to just be such a star here. Look at that.
Awesome. Like, no breathing room, really, and I don't really mind. Like, it's a car crash type of thing, and that's kind of the pace they set, and they stuck with it the whole time.
What was Brother Love thinking? He had to follow this. There's no way Hunter was going on next.
Yeah, that's right.
That's crazy.
Awesome. It's like to jump, to time.
And perfectly landed, like exactly where you want to be. As good a landing for something like that as possible.
Perfect, satisfying crunch.
God. Like, Rhino is as big a star in this match as any of the participants.
Mm-hmm.
He's the difference maker.
Yep.
Like, this was as much a springboard for Rhino as it was, like, Edge and Christian's last big hurrah before, you know, Edge would win King of the Ring, and then the breakup would happen in September. Which is funny, because the year prior, they wanted to break them up right after Mania, and it was only then that they started the heel act that got over that they decided to keep them together. It was always the running joke that Edge and Christian were always a television show away from breaking up. They always wanted to separate them, and they got a much longer run than anyone anticipated. And look where all these guys were the next year. Shampoo match with Booker, Crybaby Christian against DDP, the Hardys and Dudleys in a throwaway 4-way tag. It was like this was the peak of them, and then they all had growing pains over the next year.
Once you kind of took out one of the teams from the group, it kind of took away the chemistry, unfortunately. Like, they were all relevant pieces in this big puzzle. Yeah, I mean, they had to break one of them up eventually, right?
This following year was great in ring, but booking-wise, they really struggled.
God, how elated do you think they all feel at this point? You know, they fucking set out to do this, and they fucking did it, like, really
Back to singular X access.
Oh, yeah, that to me, that's my favorite match of the show.
Position that mic. Thanks, Chris.
You been to Access? Like, did you go to the one in
I went to the one in Toronto.
Yeah,
I went with
too.
a bunch of friends.
I just remember lining up a whole lot.
Is that Bruce Pritchard?
I remember seeing Brock Lesnar at Access.
Do a match?
Yeah.
Do you remember with who?
Against Crash or I think it was Crash or Spike.
Those I mean, when you look at the OVW class of 2002 that they brought up for those matches, I mean, it was quite as you said, just Lesnar alone doing matches. As I recall, Jim Cornette was at that Access, which had to have been one of the last times he got into Canada.
Oh.
They didn't spot him at that point.
Why was he in Canada? Was he with the company?
Well, the OVW guys. He was running OVW, so they brought him up.
Right.
And he was just doing autograph signings and probably overseeing some of the match stuff. I
got Jonathan Coachman's autograph.
Oh, boy. You still have that?
It's somewhere. I got Xbox, Lance Storms,
Okay.
and Jonathan Coachman's. That was the extent of my Access experience. They're always a little underwhelming.
God, imagine Kevin Kelly calling matches with fans all day.
Those guys weren't on that duty. I saw Michael Cole doing that at my Access.
They're team players.
Dude looks so miserable. Calling from war journalism to calling.
Sorry, that was the
matches.
birth of corporate speak, Stephanie, when she was just a little seed of what she would grow into as brand ambassador. Nah, didn't go.
Meet all the fans, get to meet the WWF superstars, and I gotta admit, I have to applaud the TLC 2 match as well. I'm excited.
I love
These guys are
I
so
love
great.
These two.
I loved it.
Oh, I love these.
Says
two
it with
together.
such a straight face to Paul, too.
I love those two together.
To announce WrestleMania X7.
X7. Just probably saw the concept art Vince was brought in. It was like XV11. What the fuck?
What do you think is a legit number?
I think it's just under. I think it was like 63. 61 to 63. Not a crazy inflated number like they do typically now, where they might tack on 10 to 15,000 empty bodies.
It's all the people in the back, all the cameramen.
All right, are you ready?
So they had bands. Oh, Limp Bizkit is on the show, aren't they?
Not on this one.
Oh,
no,
they're not.
no.
They're at 19. They're at 19.
Yes.
So there are no bands in this one.
No bands.
And does that surprise you? Because didn't they have bands?
Wait, they have Motorhead on this show, don't they? Motorhead plays Hunter out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
So, of all the WCW people,
Yeah.
in comes Mean Gene.
And of course,
Well, actually, the man who's going to come out next was actually one of the cost-cutting moves at the end of 2000. He had left.
Oh, wow.
He didn't stay with WCW right till the end.
interesting.
He left a few months early.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we had chosen this match, chosen this show even like last week.
I'm glad we're doing one with him on the show.
Yeah, I mean, what ultimately ended up being his last match that he called in the WWE.
Yeah, it was in the WWE.
I fucking love this idea already. Just to simply have Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan out there.
And it wasn't knowing these two were going to call the match either.
I know, but what a great surprise. And this show really had a bit of everything. You just came from the hardcore, you came from like a really crazy soap opera type of thing, an amateur wrestling style match. Now you have your nostalgia and you still have your serious angles to come. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't tried to replicate something like this for future WrestleManias.
I'd imagine this was also the only time you ever had Paul Heyman and Bobby Heenan on a broadcast together. Future Hall of Famers, who actually had a hell of a speech that year we went for these two. I don't know if you went to this one.
Men from
or not.
Down Under, they're wearing their new tights, their new gimmick tights.
Men from Down Under, yeah. Well, they're not allowed to use the Bushwhackers.
I know.
These two are I'm not going to do a lot of talking during this one. They called this match so tongue-in-cheek, but it was hilarious.
Think about like the thrill of these two to make it back into the WWE and to be calling a WrestleMania match.
Well, especially after the traumatic experience they had been through. I don't know how this guy got into the match. I guess he was just one of those ridiculous characters you think of from the mid-90s, but
Lagoon was in it.
would anyone recognize this guy if he was just to walk down without a key?
Nope. I'm assuming they had almost no prep.
Oh, this is the best.
Oh god. Our time code for people following is 21949.
Of course, the garbage man would carry a garbage can. He has a garbage can full of garbage. Maybe he will eventually. Take a look at this. By the time the Iron Sheik gets to the ring, it'll be WrestleMania 38.
I always remember that line.
We're almost coming up.
Sheik still has a few more years. John Tenta.
All these people, I mean, like, still look in kind of in-ring shape, you know, at this point at least. Except for the Iron Sheik, perhaps.
Earthquake did not age too much here.
Yeah.
The Goon.
This is really the match. It's the entrances.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Is he actually wearing skates?
They were specific boots made to look like
So
skates.
he wrestled on, like, basically two
I think it's
pieces
like a
of
rubber.
plastic?
Yeah.
Like skate guards. What you'd put on your skates as you're walking around the arena.
I don't know what the material was made of.
Oh god. I wonder who played him.
Well, maybe this was our Steve Lombardi.
I think you would expect Brawler to be in this.
I love this theme music. It's one of my favorites as a kid. Look at Whippleman.
I suppose a big part of the reason why they don't do this anymore is because they have so many people on the roster, and it's kind of taken up by things like the Andre Battle
Exactly,
Royal, you know?
exactly.
But I much prefer this for my entertainment.
Barry Darso with a t-shirt. And he hated this character.
Oh yeah, I'm sure none of these guys were all that thrilled.
He won't even talk about this character, which is funny considering he had no problem playing it for one night.
Well, you think they would have brought in Demolition instead?
Well, the problem was...
It's not as much of a gimmick, though.
It was also... Oh, Christ, Cornette's in this. I forgot.
He's in the Battle Royal.
I totally forgot. Dude, he did a fucking match on this show. Jim Cornette wrestling a match at WrestleMania 17 is the most forgettable trivia note from this show. Totally forgot.
His moment. Oh, awesome. This is like hearing the theme.
Look, they misspelled Nikolai. It's N-I-K.
This is all I want when I go to like a rundown indie show. Is just like to see these entrances.
Gimmick Battle Royal. I can't believe there weren't more Gimmick Battle Royals on some of these shows. They just brought in all these guys. Easy match for these guys. This was such a no-brainer in Texas. I'm actually amazed they put him on.
Well, he was in a WWF gimmick.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying I'm surprised they actually put him in because, I mean, in Texas, it's great they got him in. Look at him. He's ready for another run.
Probably working in the back, put the robe on, and then came out.
Oh, wow. Coming to the Hamilton Comic-Con next weekend. Honestly, though, he's coming back. If they had known in advance, I would have said, grow out your hair because you're coming as Akeem. To me, that's the more memorable character. But he may have got a call 2 weeks ago. Which you would think his hair would not be in that state 2 weeks out.
So who would have played him?
Gobbledygooker. Who wrote these?
There are a lot of names. Who do you think played him?
I don't know who. I don't think Hector Guerrero got a payoff here. This is the one we need to give the context to.
Yeah.
Yes, Gene, it was at the Survivor Series.
But Gene ended up getting a run with the Confidential and
Dude, Gene totally got back into the family here, and I was surprised Heenan didn't get more. Like they just seemed to not have, and Heenan was only like 53 around this time, still relatively young.
Oh, come on.
I like how he came back as Tugboat and not Typhoon. I guess we got our natural disaster for the match.
Did he ever come back as a Shockmaster at any point?
No, I don't think so.
I think
Not on an old
I think
school
Ziggler
Raw.
should bring him out. He does signings as the Shockmaster. It's
Tugboat,
probably-
unlike Barry Darsow, this guy can totally laugh at his silly gimmicks. Look at all these guys. Look at this. The crowd loves this. You're right. The whole thing's this match should have been 3 minutes.
I'm really happy, like, for all these guys to like get this one moment just to walk down that ramp, you know, in front of this audience.
Nice little payday.
Yeah.
One more time in front of a crowd. I wonder how many.
Look how big Billy Jim is.
I wonder what guys turn this down.
Good question.
Like Honky Tonk Man, I could have seen being offered and turning it down. Because you do have to realize you're coming in as the butt of a joke.
Maybe Brett. He wanted to come in for this.
This would have been where they wanted
No,
to put
actually,
him.
he would have already retired, wasn't he?
Oh, that didn't stop them from trying to bring him back. They tried to bring him back for multiple times during this whole period.
Gimmick Battle Royal.
This is where they would have wanted Hogan.
Yeah.
Vince's mindset. Jesus Christ. Who got the biggest reaction? Slaughter was amongst them.
Slaughter is amongst them.
Michael Hayes was decent. Slaughter might have been the most biggest reaction.
You know, I often wonder why. I mean, I think he's just such a colorful character. Like
Look
he
at
had
these
the He had
vignettes.
the G.I. Joe. I mean, main event of WrestleMania with Hogan.
Is he the only guy? Him and... Is there anyone else in this match who headlined a Mania? Just Slaughter, right?
I think so. Sheik, if you... no, not Mania, I guess.
Not a main event.
But also not that era, right? And I guess there's no brawler.
Yeah, I guess... I'm pretty sure Lombardi is Doink. What a visual this is. You have Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Honestly, at this point right now, it doesn't look any different from a typical Battle Royal. You know? Like, these guys are fine. They're doing
There
all
goes the
right.
Gobbly Gooker.
So this is definitely a match that protects people, too. Like, you don't have to run the ropes. You don't have to do any high
Oh,
spots.
Earthquake eliminated Typhoon.
What is... Like, Duke Drosy is just wearing... Is he even, like, in his uniform? It just looks like a polo.
This guy was still doing dates and stuff, so he's probably just in his regular attire.
He looks the most kind of generic and unfamiliar of all of them, I'd say. Oh, there goes Earthquake.
Man, for all the deaths in this match, outside of John Tenta, is everyone still here?
I hate playing this game.
But I think everyone's here.
Yeah, maybe.
Where's Cornette?
He's
there in the
bottom,
corner, yeah. How did Cornette get in this? It's probably just there.
OVW.
Yeah, I get the connection. I guess.
Oh my god. I really wish they would have done like a part 2 of this, you know? Like all the other gimmicks that were kind of left on the table that they didn't bring back for this. Ugh.
So our link between last year's review and this one is the Iron Sheik. He was on Heroes of Wrestling.
Oh, right, yes. Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, guys like Jake.
Volkov and Sheik. And there's Teddy Long.
So once the crowd dissipates, it kind of...
Yeah.
I guess the limitations
They got into
are
the
kinda-
entrances, and now it's like, all right. Now it's a match that... We don't really need to see.
The limitations are a bit more apparent now.
Oh,
The
look at
body
these.
fly out. So as I recall, I mean, they kind of ultimately decided who the winner was, depending on who couldn't actually do the.
Oh yeah,
flip
there was
over
one
the
guy
top,
who couldn't make the bump off around
right? Iron Cheek is just like.
process of elimination.
The Freebird Hayes.
And I remember going to an indie show here in Toronto a few months
Yeah.
after this, and there's Sheik putting on a camel clutch, wearing his WrestleMania t-shirt.
Well, that's the thing. We haven't seen enough finishers.
Oh!
We really haven't seen any finishers yet.
Cheap shots.
I think, like, you know, with Nostalgia X, you have the entrance and you have their finishing moves that I think
Beat of the Mater D. Brother Love.
you could really get the crowd going. for.
Oh,
Wow. Amazing.
amazing. I pictured this being longer than it actually was. It was pretty short. But yeah. This makes no sense because Hillbilly Jim, as you saw, eliminates Slaughter, but Slaughter gets his heat back on Sheik. This, to me, totally baby-faced Iron Sheik. It was like, leave the man alone.
Yeah, I agree.
How long do you think that was, Way?
Including entrances or without?
Without entrances, bell to bell.
I'm thinking 4.5.
It was 3 minutes and 7 seconds. What match was shorter? The Gimmick Battle Royal or our women's title match? Which got more time?
A women's title match?
The Gimmick Battle Royal.
Oh.
Our shortest match was Ivory and Chyna at 2:39, which was even shorter than the X Factor Sunday Night Heat match.
Yeah, Slaughter was definitely the.
Why did we have to do the big babyface spot at the end
Well,
here?
they probably thought, you know, they wanted a babyface to win, and
I guess. Sheik physically could not be eliminated.
Wrestling Federation. Thank you, my friend.
This guy was the best.
Forget about it. Stop it. That's it.
maybe we'll go back and do like a more substantial Bobby Heenan type of show.
Yeah, I'd love
at a
to.
future time, but it was nice to see him. You know.
Yeah, and in good health, too.
Yeah. I didn't like know what to expect with this match when they announced it, because like I don't think Taker really at the time was known for having great matches, but like this match was just like
This was Hunter at his best.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, because Hunter, man, he was, to me, the best wrestler of 2000 was Triple H. And, I mean, this guy, yeah, Taker had, I would say, no expectation level going into WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a totally different era of Taker. And Shawn was supposed to be involved in all of this, showed up at TV in no condition to perform, and was not part of anything.
This is the match that never gets talked about, or at least like the didn't get referenced to at all.
It's also their least memorable WrestleMania match because when they redid the Undertaker Hunter Mania matches, they positioned it as never happening before at WrestleMania. Like it was the WWE by their own actions chose to make this match like it never happened. And this is a hell of a match.
I get it from like for whatever.
Look at this! Look at this! He's gonna fucking murder Stephanie if he doesn't get his match. This is the baby face. Oh god. Please don't commit murder.
I don't often think about Undertaker as a ginger, but maybe the most successful ginger in professional wrestling. So we know Undertaker rides.
Look at those arms. Holy
we know
Christ.
Taker rides a motorcycle. Hunter at this point was dressing a lot like a biker, but have we ever seen Triple H ride a Harley Davidson?
Oh yeah, that's a visual I don't know if we have ever seen.
Real biker and a fake biker.
We all go to head. And we're gonna kick your ass.
Wow, I forgot about this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was unannounced. I think it was a legitimate surprise that you were getting Motorhead live.
Did he remember the lyrics in this one, or was it?
Yeah, there's because he performed for him again in 2005, and yeah, there's one where it's just the mumble version.
Pretty damn cool. See Motorhead at WrestleMania.
So Hunter got Motorhead this year. He got Drowning Pool in Toronto.
And then Motorhead,
03, I think.
Motorhead again. Eventually.
Motorhead in 2005. And then he got into his costumes, beginning with He-Man at 2006. Guy loves his WrestleMania season. Do you think he comes up with all his concepts for his entrances?
I do absolutely think so. Terminator, yeah.
How much time do you think he spends thinking about his own entrance for Mania every year?
I'm sure a lot. Think of all the. I'm sure he puts a lot of work into his NXT entrances too, like for his guys.
See, now he's really jacked at this period, but nothing like he would be when he would make his return after the quad injury the following January, where he had his own area code.
Yeah.
And it led to a hilarious interview that Steve Austin did in Raw magazine, in WWE's own magazine, saying, I think Hunter's got to lose 30 pounds. Look at this guy.
Yeah. He's another guy who's still wrestling, and I mean, I'm actually, we don't talk about it enough, but like Triple H is still like in incredible shape. You see him go at Mania, and the guy just he doesn't seem out of place at all. If anything, he seems like he's always still one of the best.
I wonder what the copyright clearance was for this show. For the digital rights.
Good question. I mean, this song I assume they would have had the rights for. My Way would have been the expensive one.
Yeah.
But it's worth paying for that one. It's like you probably made so much money off, and you will continue to make so much money off of this one show.
Heyman was just stunned by all this.
Yeah. Oh, we just downloaded and I guess he wouldn't download it.
Needed a signature?
Yeah.
Money transferred?
What a nightmare all that stuff was. Like,
I gotta say,
when they acquired the library of ECW.
That was a big steal. $2.5 million.
But I mean,
some advertising
dealing with
commitments.
all the music rights on all those tapes.
Well, I'll say, are you talking about ECW? Oh, ECW. I thought you were saying WCW, who, I mean, they didn't delve too much into commercial music that you had those big problems.
They were still very careful about those rip-off themes, though.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really great grand entrance, that you probably wouldn't have seen in WCW. Was this American Badass Taker or Limp Bizkit Taker?
This is Limp Bizkit, who just signed over all their rights for this show.
Yeah. I can't believe we liked this shit at the time. How did this band become so popular?
I thought you just meant wrestling in general.
No. This is good stuff. Like, this is really the best show.
I can't emphasize how much I was not into The Undertaker at all during this era.
Yeah.
To me, it was like his placement was just like the guy that would be super protected, gave very little, and was not having the high-end match quality that he would. Hey, look!
What?
It was,
Who's that?
Vladimir.
Oh.
That's a late sighting by Vladimir into the 2000s. Over as fuck, though.
Yeah.
This is also a very politically safe match for Hunter to easily lose without losing anything, essentially.
You think so? Even for
not a guy that was up for his spot, not another heel. It was like an established legend that Hunter can lose, look like a team player on the big show, and have a, better match than people would anticipate, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this was Hunter and Kurt.
Yeah, or Jericho.
Or Jericho.
Yeah.
We're not seeing an outcome like this. Yeah. And remember that the prior month, Hunter had just beaten Austin, who was going into Mania to challenge for the title. So,
right. But that
Hunter
was to set up the program afterwards.
Yeah, but you, as Hunter, had he really wanted to go to bat saying, I need to win this, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
You're the number one guy coming out of this show going for the title.
Yep.
You should beat The Undertaker.
This was also at a time when the streak
meant
was
nothing.
a thing. Yeah.
At this point, he's 8-0 going into this match, so the streak is nothing. It's funny when you look back at the different scenarios that you could have easily argued it was Hunter or Undertaker's time to lose,
right?
And it was by total chance that they didn't end it in the early infancy.
I'm sure Taker is fighting for it too. I have to wonder. I'm sure like something like that doesn't come without a level of kind of self-protection.
Well, the pattern would be, you do your big heat angle at Rumble, setting up his revenge at Mania. But then there was the year, I always remember the one in Vegas where he faces Giant Gonzalez, and they wanted to extend it, and they ended up with Gonzalez being disqualified, but it easily could have been Gonzalez beating him to prolong the feud and beating Taker.
Right.
But they opted to do a DQ finish that Taker won, and just by chance, you did that finish and didn't kill the streak in its third year. But yeah, when you think about it,
it could have ended a lot earlier. Yeah.
But also, I mean, by this point, you would figure they knew, like, Hunter was going to be Austin's babyface foil after, but by this point, they probably figured, well, we're not turning Hunter, we're going with the idea of pairing those two together, which they do the next night.
Right.
That, had they not been going that way, Hunter probably wins this match. And I don't think you could even argue it at the time, because that was your babyface to replace Austin. And instead they decided, we'll go with Taker and Kane as our baby faces coming out of this. For a show this long, I find it's breezing by.
Definitely.
We're second from the top.
It's the variety and also the quality of that variety. Nothing's been really that tough to watch.
And what's been bad has been super short. Now, in defense of The Undertaker at this time, his body was thrashed, which is even more impressive that he had the future he did. Like, could not have imagined him having that level of match. The best matches of his career were well after this period. It was really 2007 that it really picked up.
He was doing great, but his opponents, I think, were really, really good too.
He was paired with a lot of the guys that were ultra limited. Because he had missed the year prior due to injury. Before that was Boss Man, Kane, Sid, Diesel, and King Kong Bundy. Shut up.
Do you think Triple H had an in-ring prime at about this time?
Yeah. Up until the quad injury, I thought all of 2000, like from the Mick Foley program on, I thought he was the best in the world in 2000 and into 2001. I thought he was noticeably slower when he came back after the quad injury, but he'd have his big moments, but it was not to the level of like 2000, 2001 to me was prime Hunter, where I thought he could have a good match with anyone. What do you think his role would have been in the invasion if he didn't get hurt? Because they had talked about making him the focal point of WCW, which I don't know if that would have been great.
I could have seen him as I could have seen that simply because Austin, they seemed determined to push as a heel, and heels, I guess, had to be a part of WCW. I suppose Triple H would have been the leader in the WWF side over Kurt Angle.
And Austin and Hunter, that was the plan for WrestleMania in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And they ended up going with they went with Jericho and Hunter instead, but it was originally set to be babyface Hunter against heel Steve Austin, but they realized the Steve Austin thing was fizzling and they had to turn him back before the end of this year.
Some more time. You may not want to crawl with the Undertaker, but you never want to let your guard down with Triple H, who right now leaves the ring, and you know he has something in mind.
He could have just asked him to move. What's that doing there? Was the guy sitting on it?
It's a much slower paced match than obviously what we saw in the TLC match, but like it's just everything's very methodical, you know. It's kind of that classic good storytelling that's just not high paced, but like you're focused. I'm interested in what's going on. All the movements look very good, very flush, and every moment is kind of taking its time to like to develop.
I always hate that spot.
But the sledgehammer would come back later, you know, so its placement is actually quite important.
Oh no, the poor ref. What's he talking to? What's he explaining right now?
About where to put the sledgehammer.
Probably giving him shit. How did you not notice that sledgehammer? You were sitting on top of it.
Why did you have a sledgehammer at ringside?
I don't know. I was just timekeeping. Oh, what a recovery, too.
Oh.
Almost an unnecessary
Incredible.
ref bump. DQ! The streak is over! What do you mean he didn't know who it was? He's in a fucking uniform.
I think JR was
CFCTE?
justifying the babyface a little too much there.
That made no sense.
Oh my god.
Ooh. Jesus Christ, this guy's the best.
Stomped him in the back of the head.
Oh, man. Oh, this was pre-Sarah as well. Before
Sarah.
No, I mean, before she was on TV.
Oh, yes.
That was still to come. Our big Diamond Dallas feud, Diamond Dallas Page feud for the summer. Another cornerstone of WCW feuds. $35,000 damage. Shit. Whoa.
Oh, right next to The Rock's mom.
Man.
Any other celebrities?
It was,
so this was not a no DQ, but the ref's out, so they could go anywhere, I guess.
very liberal officiating.
Yeah.
And there may or may not be a crash pad that was already set up for possible use.
Man, I forget all this.
Mania goes off the air.
A lot of credit to the cable pullers, man. To have to go through this crowd and to make sure that those camera people are hooked up.
No flat screens at this point.
I know. Look at those CRT monitors. Jesus. Windows 98.
That's kind of out of date. We're way beyond Windows 2000 at this point.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. Look at that guy.
Yeah.
Violence. punching.
I totally forgot this spot.
I'm gonna murder him.
Oh, I gotta breathe.
Jesus fucking Christ.
It's a long walk. These shots just look amazing, man. Like with that crowd in the
It's
background.
incredible.
God,
Where'd that chair land?
hopefully not.
Not a whole lot of empty spaces.
We covered.
Look at that guy rooting on Taker, giving him some moral support. Oh, working the ass. Look, he's hitting him right in the
Where was
ass.
Billy Gunn on this show? Was he around at the time?
He was, where was he in early 2001? He was just not on the show.
Injured?
I don't think he was hurt. I remember he was injured throughout 2000 and came back in the fall.
Was he even in the Invasion?
He was there. He was one of those background WWF guys that didn't really have much of a role.
He was the one.
And then he got paired with Big Show,
Yeah.
the Shoguns. One. I'm gonna throw him on you people. Oh, look at that. Awesome shot.
Awesome. Just
Look how he waits.
I love those fucking wide shots. Look at this.
Now, I think it's on a replay where they show him landing
Yeah.
on a pad, which was
But
not a good
totally,
shot.
Yeah, but totally fine. Like for something like that, if you can hide it, yeah. Perfectly safe. Like
I wish flames just came up from the ground.
or shocks, electrical shocks.
This guy wants an interview.
He wants to touch him. He wants to touch Undertaker.
Undertaker sweat on eBay.
Yeah. That was a bad shot.
Yeah, why was that aired? Like,
Well,
fuck. That was the one that pissed me off.
Probably didn't think.
Because it looked great up until then. No one knows.
He jumps on him.
Holy Christ. Moonsault.
But I have no issues with that. You know, like as opposed to something that was legitimate.
Nah, just do it on cement. Protect the business.
Now, what is the excuse? What is that actual tarp covering?
There was an indoor
like a-
garden
like a
that they were
napping
trying to
area?
preserve.
Yeah.
2!
Waterbed.
Look at that nut.
Welcome home, Taker. EB. Eric Bischoff.
He should have stopped and said thank you.
The Rock.
What awful signs.
The Rockettes.
The Rockettes.
The Rockettes. Got it.
Hey, Maggie. Ray Dog's
Dog.
here. How's the view from the couch?
Jamie? Billy Jack
Lives. Billy Jack Haynes sign.
Jeff
Backin likes it up the ass.
All that stuff. Oh, man.
We have made it back. Quick, before the count of 10. Look at these disposable cameras. Oh, what? Look, dude, he's still out.
I mean,
the ref's still out.
he stomped him in the back of the head. I think it's,
But he just took a fucking, got
justifiable.
catapulted in the corner.
Yeah, but that plus the stomp in the back of the head.
That's an Undertaker stomp.
Yes.
WWE needs RVD. Vince wrote it down.
Oh, I gotta catch my
I
breath.
love that the ref was out that entire time.
Oh, that was a long
Now he's got to wake him up.
Beat the game's ass.
Crowd's hot as hell. No blood.
Could have fit in like 3 battle royals in this time.
I don't think that's a scar that lasted the rest of his life. Though I haven't studied his forehead in some time. God, imagine this could have been Taker and Jimmy Snuka at WrestleMania 7.
Look how slow they're moving though, and that's not a complaint. It's just like the pacing.
Oh
The
God!
pacing that you would expect from like somebody who's been doing this for a long, long time, you know?
Will the ring may be the Undertaker's star, but this is clearly Triple H's team. And this is the time for Triple H to capitalize on the advantage.
Again, coming with a sledgehammer. That'll be real. And a huge footmark to the face.
What a dangerous situation for both the Undertaker and Triple H to have a sledgehammer in the ring.
Referee might be out of commission several minutes ago.
Now remember where the sledgehammer is placed right now.
Oh yeah, right.
These two men
I'd be really worried about this referee if this was legit. He's lost consciousness for 10 minutes.
Refs have been out longer.
Wouldn't anyone check on him?
Suck me beautiful. Did you see that?
I've just stopped reading them.
Oh my god.
Lucky man that woman has. He really wants to make sure that is.
He's so proud
Hey,
of his
review a
son.
Raw sign. No, we'll save this for 2011.
That was awesome.
What a reaction.
The second ref comes in? Is that right? No?
And TaylorMade had Charles Robinson on the roster by this point to run. Look at this guy.
Why?
He's the master of running down the
Oh.
ramp, but not officially in yet.
Oh, he's woke him up.
That's all he needed. Oh my God. Imagine Undertaker gave him CPR.
I don't think people give enough credit to Mike Chioda for his selling.
Wow.
Look at him.
I don't
here.
know.
Look at this performance. Come on.
This is more than selling. This was going out of business.
This is my favorite spot of the match. I thought this was done so well. Look at that. Picks up the sledgehammer.
Watch the way it just boom
Like
flips out
sneakily to the point where you don't notice.
and
you know?
gets rid of it.
Just like Brett and Austin with that ring bell. I thought that was so good.
This is an awesome near fall. This is a really great Triple H match.
Definitely.
And Undertaker match. I'm pretty safe in saying this is the best match of Taker's year in 2001.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of candidates.
It's been a while since I've seen the other Triple H Taker matches, but like
Those were awesome.
I mean, it's hard to say for me to say which ones have been better.
Those two were a level above this. I remember that one we were in Miami for. That was the heat for that Hell in a Cell was out of this world.
The streak meant a lot more at that time.
Yes,
so
you had
to
that
play
going
along
for
with
it.
But as a pure match, I mean, I still remember this one being really good.
This is really solid. This is a solid 4+ star match. Really great. Very good.
Honestly,
And in the right position on the show.
yeah.
Like this.
I mean, this match could have been a lot worse. If it was like Taker versus Diesel or something, that would have died. But it tells you the strength of this match and the strength of Triple H and The Undertaker in this match as performers. you know, like brawled into the crowd, big spot, came in, had like a really nice finishing sequence with the sledgehammer, and then that's it, you know, that's it. It lived up to it, I thought.
What a shout out. I wonder if Sarah was watching this.
Do you think him winning like had to do with him being in the hometown, or all your base are belong to us? You remember that?
Oh,
this is like the first meme.
I think it was a combination of the fact that,
like the Austin turning heel.
yeah, that they knew where they were going. Taker needed to be kept strong here if he was going to be the first opponent for Austin.
Right.
And yeah, probably that would have been the biggest factor to me was Taker needed this win. But had Hunter been agreeing to be that top babyface, I think he would have won this match. And you couldn't argue with it.
I don't see Vladimir. Where is he? Maybe he just stepped into the corner
stepped out.
for that.
There.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Where's Waldo?
He's like, I made it.
I'm not making that walk. And the end of long hair Taker for a few years
Sure. Yeah.
at WrestleMania. Him and Christian, they both agreed.
I thought Stephanie would have come out at some point, but I guess she already had her match. The Rock.
He's lost.
Kind of fine.
The South Gate. Here's Austin in his broom closet. Thank you. Thank you for this boom period.
We're about to ruin my career.
Don't do it, Steve. Don't do it. Fucking awful idea. Attendance is gonna plummet. There's no baby face ready. Brock's going to leave to do a movie. Turn him.
Now, was the Scorpion King or Walking Tall?
No, it was the Scorpion King.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here
Jerry
we go.
Lawler.
Fred Durst's greatest contribution to professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if YouTube will flag this if we... Whatever.
They had also, in the lead up to this, established Austin and Deborah as being
No, God.
husband and wife. Which I thought was...
Totally forgot about that.
The Steve Austin character should not have been married.
I feel like it's a case of like them having too much TV time to fill, and therefore you needed all this kind of bullshit.
It is a bad idea. That's right. Then she ended up managing Rock.
The Rock's
God, it was
manager,
stupid.
Deborah. Oh. She was not involved in the match at all.
No.
You know, and I'm sure that was probably due to the criticism.
It worked fine for his heel character, but yeah, man.
It's not the type of storyline you'd want between. Rock
No,
and
this
Austin,
character should not be linked with anyone.
They did this like backstage conversation on the Go Home show.
It wasn't the Go Home show. It was maybe the second to last SmackDown. It was one of them, but it was an awesome sit down with Jim Ross as the moderator and Rock promising to give him his best. It was great. Oh, that exaggerated Rock sell.
In terms of editing, like all these techniques are obviously really kind of dated and not complex at all, but I think it's just like the storytelling and the pacing of everything along with the song that still makes this thing like really good. And obviously the two characters involved and the meaning behind the match. Like, I have no doubt this video package probably influenced a great deal of editors that would, you know, go on to enter the business. And in part, like myself even. this and the Desire videos. But like if you go on YouTube and look up these highlight videos, man, kids are just doing amazing work these days, just on their own. And I have no doubt a lot of them probably influenced by things like this that they've seen.
Yeah, 2001 to me was when the production went leaps and bounds ahead. Like even in 2000, you watch some of the pay-per-view videos and they're so basic in comparison. And 2001 felt like such a step forward. This was before the Desire videos, but
not that much earlier. Like Desire came out, what, end of 2001?
yeah, the fall. God, The Rock is so young here.
So Austin, obviously in Texas, probably the clear babyface coming out here, right?
Going into this, I mean, the audience, and not just like here in Texas, like different crowds, they were all more pro Austin than Rock. Like it was Rock that was getting the lukewarm babyface reactions.
Going off to do the movie.
He's going off to do the movie, and Austin was the guy to these people. Like he was there for a lot of people.
This is the moment where John Pollock feels the Attitude Era was.
Dude, when I was watching this live and I saw this entrance, I thought this entrance was just fucking incredible.
From this
reaction he got walking out.
Yeah. From this point forward, this exact moment, time code 30611, it was downhill.
Yeah. Right up until the handshake.
Oh, this was the Disturbed theme.
God, man.
He didn't even get the band to play him.
They probably didn't even make a profit off this show with the music rights.
A lot of these themes, I'm sure, like they actually.
Yeah, this one they put on the CD, and
this was like a remix of like the actual Austin theme, right?
This was my favorite version of his theme. It sounds so bare without the lyrics on it.
I like it, but it's like it doesn't have the same like ring, you know? It doesn't have the same familiarity.
I liked it. I thought it was an improvement on the original.
Sex addict.
Oh.
He outed himself.
Watch out.
So Austin has to come out here playing to the crowd that he is about to turn.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's really telegraphing anything.
No, he's giving these subtle looks.
This was also, it was not a hidden secret that this is where they were going. I mean, it was...
But to the crowd it was.
To some, I'm sure to some it was, but I mean, it wasn't like complete, like this was the direction that was talked about that they were going. And Austin was he just wanted to freshen things up. He thought he had somewhat plateaued a little, but business-wise, he had not. And there you go.
We're 3 hours and 8 minutes into this show. I'm still good. Like I still got energy.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to sit through this heel turn. That in 20 minutes, I might have to just briefly take a departure.
Huh. All right.
Listen to this place. Holy Christ. I don't know how significant of a portion of this crowd was from outside of Houston. I'm sure it was a fair amount, especially for this being a stadium level show that you would get more people traveling for it. But Houston was that sucked. Houston was always such a massive market for this company. When you'd see the breakdowns for like television numbers by city, Houston was always through the roof.
Really hot off the top, just going for finishers. Oh. I mean, it's cool that we're doing this commentary thing, but it's really nice to sit back and just listen to Jim Ross and do his thing for this match too.
Listen to this. This is insane, this reaction.
Yeah. After the show that these people have already seen, you know, for them to be this energetic is a real feat.
What's up, Kermit, Texas? I like that they're just working like the same match they would do on Raw.
But everything feels so much bigger because of this crowd,
yeah.
You know? Because of the size of this arena. Oh, so it's a no DQ match.
I think that was the unofficial stipulation of every match on this show.
Yeah.
I think The Rock was 29 at this point, which is nuts. And talk about opposite ends of the spectrum of where each would be for the following year's WrestleMania.
Yeah. Yep, The Rock with Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin with Scott Hall. I mean, that Hogan match was Austin's if he wanted it.
It was his option.
Yeah. Wow, this crowd is amazing.
They've been awesome the whole show, and they're loudest for this for the main event.
They haven't even done anything yet.
Yeah,
you know?
And they go long here too. Spoiler.
On Austin's podcast last week, he watched Steamboat Flair from Chi-Town with Brian Kendrick, and they did like this. They did like a live commentary thing. I'd love for him to watch some of these matches that he's been involved in and just give us some director's commentary on matches like this.
If I'm not mistaken, I think when they had maybe the DVD of this event come out, I think Jim Ross and Austin called.
Oh, is that right?
Or Ross might have even done it twice. Once with Rock, once with Austin. I don't think he did it together.
Cool.
I may be totally misremembering
now,
this.
Like, were they calling the match, or were they like kind of talking
It was
about
it was more so just kind of like the director's cut of the match.
Yeah, great. I mean, I feel like there's plenty of. I don't know why they don't put some of that stuff on the.
They don't do that enough, and I think that would be a great add-on.
It would be a great network show, wouldn't it?
You know what I didn't even realize till the other day? I accidentally clicked on it. All the pay-per-views on the network, like the latest ones, they're in all like 7 different languages you can watch them in. Like all those broadcast teams, that version is saved on the network.
Yeah.
So you can watch it in any language. I think I'm just going to go back and watch ones with the Indian team.
Sure.
If that's an option.
Yeah.
I would love to watch that.
I go back sometimes just to watch the Jinder Mahal reactions.
Did he just take a blade? He totally did.
Yeah.
That was so blatant. Look at that guy with his beer. Oh, The Rock's
My
mom just
boy.
watching him.
My boy. Careful.
I hope he took his Tylenol. Thin that blood out. Make it flow. Average job at best. But at least he didn't headbutt him in the skull to open it up.
Man's a movie star. He
It's a good point.
fake blood now.
Fuck this. I'm not cutting my head open. I gotta be on set in 2 days.
Exactly. Like seriously.
He did it very high. Steve's not gonna give a shit later. Carve my forehead open.
Knock it off.
Knock it off, guys. Knock it off.
What's he doing that's so bad? This is no DQ.
There's limits. Come on.
Oh, come on.
It's called the unwritten code. Brock's lost so much blood, he is hallucinating. Can't even stand on his own 2 feet. This match already blew away their prior WrestleMania match from the 2 years
15?
before. It's nothing special, that match. In fact, they had a better pay-per-view match the month later at Backlash, but this is significantly better. 19 has the fun dynamic of Rock being the full-on heel.
Yeah. I feel like in this match, like Austin is already like, I mean, his job is to show desperation. You
Yeah,
know,
he's already playing,
Yeah.
the heel role, kind of. But that was kind of the Austin character, too. Like, he's not playing a coward, he's the Austin character. Listen to these boos. They fucking hate this guy. Little do you know.
Yeah, fuck you guys. That same guy who held a McMahonFigures.com sign now holds a RockFigures.com sign. So you
It's
just
almost like he's a plant.
parked all those URLs.
The guy with the Texas logo tattooed on his calf, and we're gonna turn him here. At home. God, Jim Ross is on another level right now.
Who are your favorite like brawling wrestlers? Like wrestlers with that brawling style, similar to Steve Austin.
Foley at his prime was tremendous. Later, you could say Samoa Joe comes to mind for me.
Yeah, Joe, I would say, like, I mean, obviously, I think every wrestler these days is a bit more kind of versatile, and Joe, like, can almost kind of do almost a lot of different styles. But, like, I'm just thinking, like, Austin here, you know, he, like, came back from the injury and kind of, like, developed this kind of very brawling not very technical style, but like it's still just as popular as ever.
Yeah,
More
I think
popular.
it coincide. I mean, it wasn't great the fact that he got that neck injury against Owen, but after that, it coincided with him having to rely more on that brawling style, which perfectly fit his character. That it was the perfect style to complement the new character. That it worked so well.
Yeah, he's just punching and kicking, but they're like very intense punches and kicks. You know, and he puts a lot of attitude behind everything.
10 minutes to go. Austin being measured from the champion.
Oh, that's interesting. Listen to the boos.
Damn this man.
Yeah. Listen to the boos for The Rock. Austin's like, that's how you draw blood, man. Although
Austin's selling was very
Rock's
good
got a pretty okay flow.
This was also as he was working his way into the sharpshooter era of The Rock.
He was doing the sharpshooter before this, right?
When did he start using it? Was it the Benoit feud?
Survivor Series. Well, I guess that was the first,
Yeah, but
first
that
time he
wasn't
did it.
like that was for the Montreal finish. He didn't really start using it. I guess it was the Benoit feud. Maybe he started using it the prior year. Always looked terrible.
Listen to Jim Ross, like pretty much at about 9.5 right now.
God, he's not even thinking about calling Raw tomorrow night. He's leaving it all here. Jesus.
I feel like production-wise, like this show still really holds up. It doesn't look all that dated. I mean, it's not HT, but like you look at just the lighting and
Oh yeah,
the barricades and everything, it doesn't seem that dated to me.
Also, the fact of like producing a show of this level, like trying to think of like the stadium shows in like their last couple of years. Like they did the Rumble that year at the Alamo Dome in '97, but I mean it was such a scaled down version and hardly anywhere near this level.
What was the last Mania that took place in a stadium?
92, so almost a decade you'd been removed.
And at that time, like in that time, I think their production had graduated
it was so different from 92 to 2001.
Even from the barricades, you know, to the graphics, to the lighting.
That was the show where Ric Flair got chewed out for doing blood in the title match because it was a big match. Can't be doing that. Uh-oh. No. Took that like a movie star.
What's that book? What is that?
Oh, that's the WrestleMania history book or whatever.
Yeah?
They put out one of those books.
Who was using that? I guess
The Heyman was fit.
Yeah, JR.
Oh, it was a resource. Look at that. No internet.
I can't believe you recognize that book just from the cover.
Yeah.
God damn. Poor Spanish announcers. They lost their replacement.
They lost everything.
I know.
He's so driven to remain the champion.
I think that's the interesting thing about an Austin heel turn is that he does so many heelish things already that you never really expect it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I think made it hard when they first turned him, and he was still playing the kind of badass character.
And this, wow. And this is, of course, like, it reminds you of WrestleMania 13.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah. You gotta get going for a second?
I'll be back.
You can't handle this violence?
Nah, this sharpshooter does not look too
goodness.
convincing.
John has to go do an interview right now, right?
I'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. It's just you and me watching this. Look at this. Fuck that. What an ugly sharpshooter. But this crowd didn't seem to give a shit. Oh. That is such a bad sharpshooter. But a great moment still, nonetheless. Way better sharpshooter. Look at this. That's how you apply it. Great. Man. The visuals are just spectacular with both men and their sharpshooters. Oh, look at that. That looks great. Poor Rock's mother. I love the cutaway to her right now. Seeing her son bleed like this. But both of these men, I mean, Austin. Oh, I guess Austin would have one more submission that he would end up using, but neither man kind of really known for their submissions. So to adopt the sharpshooter for a spot like that, I think was worked. You know. Wow. Austin's refusing to let go of the sharpshooter. And there we go. $1 Million Dream. An awesome callback that I don't know if Austin's done it even at all since his Ringmaster days, but a great callback right at this moment. I mean, if you listen to the crowd here, none of them are really reacting to it because I don't think anybody buys it. I thought it made sense though, you know, and for a longtime fan, I thought it's a nice callback to his heel days, which I think works perfectly here. Oh, okay. They did it. That was, of course, the Piper Brett finish. So at this point, Austin is pretty much kind of done almost everything, but he hasn't hit a stunner yet. And there's the first. From The Rock. Stone Cold figures. Here he comes. Vince McMahon. Fresh off of his street fight. And this crowd is just going nuts. They're watching this amazing match, and here comes a guy who they don't like, about to spoil what's been a very pure matchup. And more importantly, screw Steve Austin out of a potential win. Pinfalls after everything, after every big move. And Austin, I think, is progressively starting to show more desperation, more frustration. Spinebuster from The Rock and setting up for the People's Elbow, but not facing the hard camera. Wow. Oh, Vince. But this crowd is loving it. Oh, man. Vince's facials are so underrated. The man just knows exactly what look to give to tell his stories. Rock bottom from Austin. Ooh. So at this point, the characters know that Austin and Vince know that they're working with each other, but the audience still doesn't know, because even that was like kind of Vince's fuck up that led to, some luck for Steve Austin, but it's not spelt out to you yet that they're actually working together. Austin goes for the stunner and Earl gets bumped. And there's a low blow while the referee is out from your babyface Steve Austin, and very uncharacteristic, and the crowd doesn't really cheer it. And here's Austin asking McMahon blatantly to hand him a chair, and I think this is the point where the crowd's starting to realize what is going on. And I think everybody's confused. Look at this. They're booing. They're starting to realize what's happening. Even the security guards watching, they don't know what's going on. Everybody's standing up. Listen to the silence in this crowd. Wow. Incredible. That is just the sound of disappointment from 65,000 people. Listen to this crowd. It's just amazing. I don't know what they're hoping for at this point. Are they hoping that The Rock wins, or are they hoping Austin turns on McMahon by the end of this, back to where he was going?
That's what I'm asking. We are witnessing something that will be talked about for years to come.
Man. They could have like gone to the finish just that like with that first chair shot, but the decision to extend this, I mean, increases the drama, but I guess it also kind of really cements Austin's heel turn in association with Vince. So now it's essentially 2-on-1. Stunner. And a handstand from The Rock. Awesome. Awesome. I feel like by this point, I'm not going to say they totally turned the crowd, but I feel like reactions for The Rock as a babyface were a lot louder than at the start of this match. There you go. Man, you know, like on the one hand, they're making The Rock look like Superman, but they're also showing you Steve Austin's justification for working with Vince and having to really dig deep into his dark side in order to beat The Rock. And very important to have, I guess, Vince in the ring with him to really kind of show that big picture. And that's it. I mean, still lots of people cheering. You know, people just wanting Austin to win, I guess, regardless. But a really great match. I mean, you can argue about their intent and right in time. Right in time for the finish.
What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Oh, they shook their hands. Like, you can argue about the decision from a historical perspective, but for what they set out to do, I thought the execution was fantastic in this match.
I mean, it was I don't want to say iconic moment, but Austin and Vince shaking hands was a visual.
But the build-up to that final sequence with Austin's escalating desperation, I thought was really well done. You'll have to take my word for it.
And this is the famous scene that Austin always wishes he just stunned him instead of...
Honestly, that would have fixed things. Like,
it would have been...
You know, this crowd at this point, I think, are still stunned, somewhat silent. And I don't know if that would have totally redeemed Austin, but
it would have been forgotten.
It was still a dick thing to do, though, to cheat, you know, to rely on Vince McMahon to help you win the guy.
Yeah.
But they could have actually salvaged it. But man,
it's just there were just so many holes to this of just, all right, you're taking away your number one babyface, and for that matter, number two. And these aren't just any other number one and two babyfaces. They're both gone. Well, one's turning, one's leaving. Who's filling those holes? And if your answer was Undertaker and Kane, this is something we need to revisit, folks. Let's sit down. We need a better plan than this. Either, Hunter, you're fucking turning tomorrow night and you're our top babyface, or we're not doing this.
Was that not the plan eventually?
It was at one point, and then it was delayed.
Yeah.
Hunter got out of turning, and it would have eventually led to a Hunter turn. But in the meantime, you had Undertaker and Kane, then they went to the Benoit Jericho route, and then we were right into the invasion. Mm-hmm. Kurt turned. Kurt could have been a tremendous top babyface.
Not on the level of these two.
Not at this level, no.
Do you think this was like a case of like Vince just wanting to end WrestleMania with like a big moment, you know?
I think it was Austin wanting to turn, sure, you want a big moment, something that has never been done before, but it was just, to me, it wasn't a well thought out turn when you figured.
Oh, and this is the cherry on top. How was the interview? Brief?
It's tomorrow at 5.
Oh, really? Seriously? Shit.
This should have been the 2-man power trip. Forget Hunter. Vince and Austin just wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
Think of their vignettes out on the city together.
They did kind of do a lot, you know.
It's just that
invasion.
This whole boom period was built on this feud.
Yeah.
That the audience that either came back or got into wrestling was off this feud. And Austin was their guy. And this was the one alliance I don't think you could do.
So now, where do you think they should have gone had they decided to keep Austin a babyface with The Rock leaving? How would you have carried on business?
I mean, it's a steep decline to go from The Rock to who's your next heel. Hunter probably would have been the one, but do you do that right away? That's not a backlash program. That's not Judgment Day.
Like, so when you're faced with these decisions, you don't know where else to take the Steve Austin thing. I can see why they decided to do what they did. I mean,
you could have rushed Kurt.
They also didn't know that they had WCW to play with too, right?
No, at this point, you did. By the time they did the turn, they knew they had that to play with. That was a big part.
They had their months planned, I'm sure, even before all that.
Well, the plans had to be blown up at that point when you've got the Dream program.
But boy, like, what a fucking show! Like,
great show.
Is this the best pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view that they've ever done?
Of a WrestleMania, it's still number one, though I will say a very close one is 19, which I don't think gets the praise that it deserves, because there were as many great matches on that show in 2003 that I put those two neck and neck together as my favorite WrestleManias.
I really love this one, and to me this one is my favorite simply because of the great variety that was involved. Nothing was all that bad. Even if it was like, I guess, so short and so kind of earlier in the card that it was forgettable. But you had just some great peaks here, you know, with this Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit match, the fucking TLC match, the soap opera shenanigans in the McMahon's match, and of course, like, the last two matches, and even the Gimmick Battle Royal. So, like, man, really glad we did this show instead of.
And it's symbolic. It's the end of the Attitude Era. Yeah. Realistically, this is the beginning of the decline after this boom period where business didn't tank, but it went down after this. And this was the high point of this 99 to 2001 period for the company. Yeah. And it's on to the next chapter. So.
Really fast editing with the.
I was always impressed with these, how they got a package with, like, the last shot into this video package 3 minutes later.
Mm-hmm. They've never been late, really, with all these.
Imagine if we had 3 more hours of Mania to go after this.
That's how long they are today? Is that
2 to 3 after this. I mean, this year's was what, close to 7? This one clocks in at 3:45. Perfect time. I guess we're not including Sunday Night Heat, though, but nonetheless, with all due respect to X Factor.
Well, less is more sometimes, right? I thought this was a very acceptable, happy length. Like, I had
TLC was your favorite match on this show?
But I mean,
I love Austin Rock. I love that match.
It really had, like, a level of drama and a level of crowd interaction.
The heat was incredible.
Was unmatched.
Dude, Vince Shane was, for crowd heat, was outstanding.
Triple H Taker, I was a big fan of. Austin Angle, I was a great. Sorry, Angle Benoit, I was a big fan of too. Man,
you're right though. Show. It's like there's such a wide variety on this. Like, nothing blends into each other. It's not repetitive.
So, thank you all. I hope you all lasted this one. I don't see this one being nearly the challenge that Heroes of Wrestling
you better start uploading this now if we want to get this up anytime this month.
True. But there's no feedback or anything, is there?
No feedback.
We've done a proper review of the show.
I don't need anyone's thoughts on WrestleMania 17. You can post your feedback in the feedback into this thread on the message board.
I would encourage people to go check out the archives, but of course they are still temporarily down.
We're working on them.
Are we working on them?
We're planning on working on them.
They're somewhere. They're a bit of a mess. We apologize, but we do. I should probably lower this because we will.
We've had a lot of my way on this show.
But thank you everybody for the support. I mean, it's been 8 years we've done this show. So
from ground zero,
yeah,
literally to WrestleMania 17.
Somebody actually recommended that we do this for ground zero, but I don't know if that would have been nearly as entertaining.
Much shorter show, but I feel would not be of the quality. I think when we do these, I don't want to do shitty shows.
Sometimes we'll have to, and I don't mind it, but like I'd rather something that was consistently interesting that we could talk about.
Do you want to do WrestleMania 18 quickly?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's only 4 more hours. But
actually, one person suggested Uncensored 95, which is such a ridiculous show that one would be fun.
I would consider it. I'm sure I'm sure there'd be plenty to talk about. But think about what you guys want for next year, because these are fun, and we'll definitely keep doing them.
Yeah, so give us your suggestions so we can take them under advisement, and then we'll ultimately choose what we want to do. As we now are getting scenics of the Skydome / Rogers Center. Do you think WrestleMania 18 was longer or shorter than 17 at 3:45?
I would think longer.
Longer?
Yeah.
I'll say shorter.
Let's
what
see.
the hell? 3:42.
Oh, 3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes shorter.
Well, drowning pool.
Oh,
okay, well, let's not get into this.
That's saliva way.
Saliva, sorry.
We had saliva and drowning pool as our 1-2 musical combination. All right, this is not as good a WrestleMania as the one we just watched.
Any closing thoughts for our audience as we approach the 4-hour mark?
Well, I'm really sorry I left here right near the end because there was a communication error. However, this was a lot of fun way. This breezed by. I didn't know how 3:45 would sound like. This sounded like a really long show to sit through.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
This was a lot of fun. This felt like 2 hours tops for me.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed as well.
It's been years since I've watched that show.
All right. We'll do this for Raw. How about?
We should do it every week for Raw. Yeah.
Raw
Let's see if this will make Raw breeze through.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners out there. We hope you've enjoyed this, whether it be in podcast form, YouTube. I don't know how we got this on podcast form. I hope it's all in one
we'll find out.
concise file. Yeah. And if it's really sparkly and crappy, well, it was saved at a very low bit rate. So that is it. Follow away, follow me. And next week, in 2 weeks on the show, has this spurred on anything you want to watch?
I don't really, not necessarily. I feel like we should probably get out of this era, having already done this. Should we do something like more Heenan related?
I'm thinking
like what you suggested originally for this.
Well, we have.
Have we done that show?
We've reviewed that show.
Oh, we have. Okay. All right. Is there anything else?
You know what? I'd kind of be interested to watch just because they showed this clip and. There is the Clash of Champions where Heenan shows up for his first WCW appearance.
Okay.
Do you want to do that one?
Sure.
Yeah, this is from January 1994. I can't remember the exact numbered Clash of Champions, but we'll post it.
And that means it's a shorter show. Right?
Yes, it's a shorter show, probably under 2 hours. And it's Heenan's first WCW appearance. And I've never seen this Clash, to be honest. So to hear Heenan's first post-WWF show after leaving at the end of 93, let's go back and review that.
Cool. Awesome. I assume there may.
You know what? Let's find it.
And for people who are only joining us from our YouTube side of things, we do this. We have been doing this for about 8 years, and we'll go back and watch old wrestling, and you can download those every other Friday at liveaudiowrestling.com in audio podcast form. So John's looking up the card for what is this?
Okay, so this is Clash of Champions 26.
Okay,
and
it's on the network.
Features Ric Flair teaming with Sting to battle Big Van Vader and Rick Rude in a tag team elimination match. And this also features the debut of Bobby the Brain Heenan with WCW.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so that is it. Clash of Champions 26 coming up in 2 weeks. Next week on Friday, Keep It 2000 is back as we alternate weeks. And you can get all of our shows at liveaudiowrestling.com and subscribe on iTunes so you never miss a show, as well as youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling.